every house I do. I have a little Trilio to do thing I do, but because I never remember all this stuff, honestly. Even after all these years, it's like when you got so much going on, it's like, you know how it is. You could be like, oh, you could totally know it, but then Facebook alert could make you forget it. There's like 50,000 reasons you could not remember it.
Right.
So
we just hammered down the purchase loan. So that's in play, and we also have our HELOC. And one of the things we're running into with the HELOC, I'm not sure if you've run into this before, but the HELOC is we can transfer like instantaneously into our checking account from that, but they won't let us transfer out of it to our business account because there's I guess a limitation on it. So we got to, I guess, talk with them about that.
You can probably just usually go to the bank and get a cashier's check for whatever you want, and then take that to your settlement.
Yeah, that's
right. I would just do that, and then if you can't, just get a cashier's check, and then come back a day later and put it into your bank account. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they have stupid rules. You just sometimes have to go around them.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so is this the checklist?
Oh, yeah. So this is actually my Trilio, and this might be good for you to get. It's free. I don't usually recommend any kind of software that costs money because I'm kind of like against complex software. I find it no one ever uses it.
My wife will give you an honorary Asian card for free stuff.
For free stuff, exactly. I'm kind of like, believe me, cheap doesn't just run with Asians. It's Indians, it's people from the hood. It's just certain people are cheap. I don't really matter what nationality they are. I will say that a higher level of people from Asia are cheaper. But that's just, they're more frugal is what I like to say. They're never usually, I mean, honestly, they'll buy things they like. They just don't like to blow money. I'm kind of that way too. Like I'm very generous with my money. Just unless it's for something that I find unnecessary. And these really expensive, like $100 a month Real Flow and all these different crazy programs they try to sell, I honestly don't see the use in them. I have Podio, but I'm running a pretty big business and I barely ever use that. I predominantly use this, honestly. Podio does work well for like, all my leads go into it. It's a lot of automation happening, but unless I'm really grinding it out, looking at deals, I'm rarely ever in Podio, but this works nicely. So this is Trilio. It's perfect if you're doing a rehab. It's free. You just create cards. These are cards. And then you come in here, you can see, I'll give you just an example of my checklist.
Okay.
So you can see, this is all the things that, can I copy it? Oh, I can't copy it. Can't copy it I can't copy it and do anything else, just copying the card. Okay, I was wondering if I could just send it to you or something. Oh, share. No, not really. Okay. So basically what we're doing is we're going through setting up the dates to get all my checklist stuff done, upload purchase contract. You've done most of this stuff. Drive into the property. I put all my stuff in Drive. So I have like everything. I have like essentially a Google Drive. It'll have like all active properties, and then it goes to archives once they're done. And so every property I've ever done. But now in that Google Drive, I got my contracts. I've got drawings. I want to know what my drawings look like. That's highly important. I have a lender info sheet, meaning like I have all my information, like the comps, that video walkthrough, plan, budget. Make sure I have all that budget stuff planned out, like very detailed before I go to settlement. The big thing is before you settle, once you settle, you're going to feel like, okay, we got to do work. So before you settle, you definitely want to know, like, and be 100%, you and your wife be on the same team. No, oh, well, we'll figure it out as we go through it. That's really a bad sign. That's going to cause you to lose money and make decisions on the fly. And it's also going to leave you open to contractors and people kind of convincing or persuading you to do stuff that's not in your best interest. Right. So it's all about getting like really super hyper clear before you settle, or before you really start, essentially, right? I mean, it doesn't matter if you got someone in there demoing and say that week you want to do it. It doesn't really matter if you do it in week one. But what you don't want to do is never do it. I had like a lot of times when project manager gets busy, he doesn't do it on certain properties. He just he's more reactive than proactive. This work we're talking about here is being very proactive. Right. And really, because this way, when you go through it, you might find out, wow, that's more money I don't want to spend. Well, the first thing that's very easy for me to do is I can help you go through your budgets when you have too much money, and I can help you find ways to save. and then you can go out, take action on it. So that's where I can bring you a lot of value as your coach, because I'm really good at doing that. My own flips, it's a big part of how I maximize and how I make a lot of money per flip, and how I am able to just, do very little and make good profits is really the key, because that's what we always is about, right? We want to do the minimum amount of work and make the most amount of profits. So really important. So before we settle a property, or before we really start to work on a property, we want to definitely have the drawing of the property. We want to have a budget, line item budget done. We want to be super clear on that. And that drawing would be nice to bring it to me. Let me take a look at it and just see if there's any way to optimize it. Like when Tanya looked at it, she had some ideas. So you can see that you bring it to other people. It just is really helpful. And then yours is pretty close to done, if not. But then once you get on it, make sure you're 100% on it, right? Because you're going to have a contractor come in and tell you, oh, that doesn't work. No, you can't do that. You'd be better to do this. And you got to be able to stand your ground and be like, nah, man, this is my drawing. Like 6 people looked at it with me. Like, leave me alone. Next thing is, this is all like paperwork stuff. All my stuff I hate, by the way. So this is all just for like Tanya, my mom, make sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. However, this is actually a big part of my job. It's the rehab design with the SWOMO features. So that's those little sizzle features. You want to be very thoughtful. Like maybe make a list of like, okay, what you're going to do. For you're new. So you could put a list of everything you're going to do. I don't really list out anything that I know is pretty mandatory or standard. Like I don't really have to tell people to paint my walls gray. They kind of know that. However, if I did want the walls tan, I would have to tell them that, right? If say this house for whatever reason I was going to make tan, I'd have to let them know. If I pick special tile for the house, I need to write that down. And that is part of like when you do the SWOMO stuff, it might be a little bit of a custom tile design. You'd want to be able to write that design out on graph paper and show them what kind of design you want, or just take a screenshot, a picture of the design you want. That's often just as good, by the way. And so I would say it's a lot faster. So it's probably even better in the fact you don't have to do the work of messing with it. Or you can sit there and try to, doodle it out on a piece of paper. They know if you just give them some really basic stuff, like contractors are like, cool, I got it. And then, the thing is, don't have to be exactly, as long as it comes out something like the picture, you're all good. It could be, I always get stuff like turned the opposite way and not perfect, but it all works out and it all looks fine. I'm not worried. I don't get too picky, because I know if I am that picky, I'll always be unhappy, because I'll always mess up with a little small thing here and there. And it's not too big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. But figuring out like, okay, your master suite, what are we going to do there? Are we going to, are we going to do some shiplap in the house, or, where are some opportunities for like an accent wall, things like that. They don't really cost a lot of money. Are we going to be able to put an island in the kitchen? Anything that you can do, it's really going to make the house stand out and really look nice. Above and beyond like your gray paint, your tile, and the normal stuff we always do. That's called SWOMO feature, selling with multiple offers, that stands for. And that kind of it helps your house go from like a logical sell to a very emotional sale. And as soon as we get the emotional sale is when we start seeing going from like selling. When I was doing logical, most of my homes would sell for full price. Now that I'm focusing on the SWOMO features, I call them. Now a lot of them are coming into where I'm seeing like 5 and 10K extra. I'm seeing some really strong numbers that make me very happy. Like some of them like at 30K more, I got 50K on one. I rarely ever seen that like until I started adding this stuff. And even now I don't see it if I'm just putting kind of plain properties out. I'll start noticing that a lot of my houses are just selling for full price or around full price.
Cool. Yeah. What did you get bid up on the Hyattsville one? The 43rd Street? Was it 43rd Street?
That one was like
is that your 50K one?
I think that was the 50K one. Yeah, one of those was awesome. Like 50K. Yeah, and
it looked nice. It looked nice.
It did look nice. I mean, it was, I did a little extra stuff there that had a lot to do with neighborhood on that one, but It was neighborhood, and it was the quality of the work the guy does that did that house. He does very good quality work. So it's almost like his work is so good, he is like a SWOMO feature in himself. I mean, he's like, I don't have to add stuff with him because his work is truly picky. I literally don't even have to go. I'm really picky to like almost like OCD picky, and I've had to work on it. And now I'm like, a lot of times people are like, oh, Mike's just like kind of laid back because you see me just like, oh, don't worry about that. That's not a big deal. It's 5 foot away. That's the new me, man. I've had to work on that. It's taken some therapy to get to that. Like I was kind of annoying, to be honest, when I look back at myself. And I've actually had people come into my company who are super OCD annoying like that now. And I look at them and now I'm like, holy crap, man, I used to be that way. I'm glad I made some shifts because I like watch it now and I'm thinking, man, I can't believe anybody worked for me, really. it's hard to work for people like that. So if we are OCD, it's actually, me and Ray talk about this all the time because he's the same way. And most people are, honestly. I mean, a lot of people are. It's actually a superpower, but it's one of those things that has to be balanced out, or it turns into like, you know, you start like annoying everyone. So being super hyper detailed is actually a good thing. It's not bad at all. So whoever has that level of detail will be the person who usually is doing kind of the final check through, making sure the place is really tight, a bunch of things aren't loose, stuff isn't falling off, and, you know, there's not a bunch of shoddy looking work, especially in Rockville and or Damascus, wherever you are, right? It's going to be a little pickier buyer pool. There's going to be a little more money for that house. It's not cheap by any means. So you're probably going to have like a more educated buyer for sure. And they're going to be looking for a good quality product at the end.
I think our buyer is going to be, I mean, if I were to just put it in perspective, I think our buyer is going to be the high end of a first-time home buyer.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think your
wants to be in
neighborhood
that
is a first time kind of almost, right? I mean, 400K, 350, that's probably pretty first time buyer there.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. That's actually on the low end for Montgomery County.
Well, so let me give you the comparison. When I say less educated buyer, more educated buyer, usually means nothing to do with school, by the way. It almost just means like there's some people that know a little more about things, you know, like I would say they tend to be a little more educated around buying a home, the process, like what to look for, might be doing more research. When you sell like a house in Evanston Village, a little less educated buyer, you know, 130K. When you sell something for 250, 300, a little more educated. If you get into apparently uppity white neighborhoods are really picky and very educated buyers because I've had nothing but troubles trying to sell properties there. I mean, they're talking about like the water running off my hill was affecting the frogs, quality of life. And I'm like, this is like, my mom told me it and it was so ridiculous that I was just like, all right, we're not having that conversation. That's stupid. I'm like, don't listen to like one goofy person. And then fell out of contract, sold it again, happened again. And they started talking about the frogs. And I'm like, what are they like? I started thinking, I bet they're in the same office and they told each other. This is how crazy I was getting. Cause I'm like, this is the most outrageous thing I've ever heard. And eventually got like, I heard so much of it. I was like, all right, we're going to redo the hill and make it frog friendly and put some ornamental grasses in. And we did. We spent like $5,000 doing it, by the way. House instantly sold though. So we did. We went right under contract and I'm looking pretty good so far. I think we're under contract now. So, you know, man, I have to tell you, sometimes that's rare though. That's stuff I seen like when I was in Chevy Chase. I've been in Annapolis, you know, real uppity neighborhoods a little bit. They get a little more picky. But with that being said, if you're putting a good product out, I mean, they weren't complaining about my house. They were only complaining about my hill in the backyard. It kind of had water runoff, and I've just never had anybody get that picky about it.
Yeah, that's crazy. Where was that? That was in Parkville?
No, Parkville is like pretty laid back, working class.
Okay.
You know, so when you're getting like the working class neighborhoods, you're all good, man. Because working class people aren't as picky and crazy acting, right? They're not like like I feel like the people like were smelling their own farts in this neighborhood. I feel like it was like, you know what I mean? Like they just like smelled their own farts and were like, oh, they smell so good. Oh, I have great smelling farts. I don't know. I get that impression. I could be wrong. That's why, you know, no matter how much money I make, I'll probably never live in like a really snobby neighborhood. I'm just probably never going to move there because I don't think I could stand the people there.
No.
Legitimately, I couldn't stand them.
They drive you crazy and you'd want to buy a gun.
I would have to say that when I've been around people like that, because now I make a little more money, I start getting invited to things, I instantly am like, nah, I'm okay. Like, you guys are really, and there's always some cool people in there, but it's the people who are like keeping up with the Joneses and doing all that stupid stuff that are just really snobby about things and really look down on people. I find that it's a very low level way of really being, honestly. You know, just because you have a teeny bit of money, like they're not like they're ultra wealthy or anything. And then you start seeing when people get really wealthy, then they're usually very high level. Like, you know, then you start seeing people that like understand life. I don't know. I feel like there's this middle ground when people just make like a couple $100,000 a year and they, you know, they drive really nice cars and houses and they kind of live beyond their means and they're very try hard.
I think you and I might be cut from the same cloth then.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe. Yeah, plus I don't like to spend money, so I'm not, you know, if someone would judge me for that, then I don't want to be around them, you know? Exactly. I don't want to hang out with nobody that's going to be giving me crap about like what money I don't spend. I'm just like, hey, you know what? I'm going to do what I'm going to do with my money. I work really hard for it. I'd rather give my money to charity before I go do something dumb with it.
Yeah.
Too many people that need that money, or lives I could change with it versus going buying stupid stuff I don't need.
Yeah, I agree.
Anyhow, so we're back off to a life subject. So this is really the key, though, is that you got that budget, you got that layout. Once you get all that, then it's going to be figuring out your first couple items. So let me pull that up very quick, get rid of this. And now, like, this is actually divorce I was looking at. So then it's going to be figuring out your first couple items that are going to be done. Let's see, you got a timeline, so that's the best thing to look at. So you can see in here we got budget, drawing, demo. So demo, termite, waterproofing, foundation, roofing, framing. Roofing's a little flexible. It doesn't have to be done like day one unless there's water coming through the ceiling. But this is all how the order we want to do things. So what we want to focus on when we're in the beginning of our rehab is just finding some people to do these first couple items. Like if you try to find someone to do all these items, that's kind of overwhelming, right? That's going to make you like fizzle out very quickly. That is like definitely not the marathon, right? That's the sprint. Right. So I find people get a little crazy if they try to do all this. But what happens is, and I was telling Deborah, I believe this the other day, when you find someone to do your demo and you find someone to do like, you know, some framing for you and some of your odds and ends, if they do a really good job for you and you like them and they keep their promise and they're good people, then you might bring them in to do some of this other stuff, right? Some drywall, maybe some siding, install the cabinets, put the doors and trim in. They probably can do tile, right? I mean, likely they can do other things. If they can't do those things, then guess what? They'll probably know people that can. So you can see how this works. Now, if at any point you bring someone in, this is how this works. So you put somebody in to do the demo and they suck it up and they're on crack and they act stupid and they never show up, do anything they want. It's not only just your job, but it's your mission to fire them and then go back to the drawing board and find someone to do this job right. Because, you know, you can work with awful people and you'll get through a job, but then you got to start it over the next job and the problem never goes away. So the thing about problems with contractors, you solve them quickly and efficiently, and you don't give up on them until they're solved, because a lot of times people just accept the fact that contractors are crappy, and because there are plenty of crappy ones out there, and then they'll just be like, well, I'll hear them say things. And by the way, when I say I hear other people say things, I've also heard me say these things for many, many years. Things like, well, you know, he's a mess. He never shows up, but, you know, he's a pretty good guy other than that. He's a good father, you know, or he shows up every day or he doesn't. Or it's like they always find like the one good thing about this person and be like, but his work, you know, when he did finally get it done 8 weeks later, the 1 week job, it looked really good, you know, things like that. Or he was cheap. At least he was cheap. I mean, they take the only good thing he did, and then it becomes like the thing they hang on, right? And dude, I've done that I've used to do that, by the way. When you do that and you catch yourself doing that, is you're lowering your standards, right? You're really taking and lowering your standards. I'm not saying if you got 5 boxes you want to check off and they check off 3 of them, you should fire them. But I'm saying you can only check off 1 of them, you probably should fire them, because it's not going to make your life easy and it ain't going to get any better. They're going to cause your house to be over budget and over timeline. And it's also in good faith, you know, the ones that you don't check off for them, the question I would have is like, maybe they showed up a day late, you know, did it get better over time or did it get worse? So if you work with them a little bit more and they, you know, next thing you know, they got to a routine of working with you, because you'll see that sometimes when it's new, it's fresh, it's a little bit like, you know, it's disjointed a little bit. They're not in the routine of working with you. So you'll see them not be as, you know, maybe they're finishing up a job or something and they're trying to like manage their time. But then once that job was done, they got more consistent. So, you know, I would be okay with like seeing how it goes, but I'm always paying attention to what people do, not what they say when it comes to contractors, because the one thing that will really, really get you in trouble is like every contractor is full of a lot of shit, and they like to tell you about how great they are and everything they know. And they'll show you pictures. I mean, they'll sit there and just like, I tune them out. And it's like, it's one of my pet peeves. People laugh when they start showing me pictures. Oh, look at this picture. And I'm like, first of all, don't even like, there's zero proof it's your picture.
Yeah, right.
Show a picture of your bathroom. Like, let me see you in it, because like, otherwise I don't even know you've ever even been to that job. Like, you might have never, you could have pulled that straight off of Facebook, honestly.
Right.
I mean, that's like what do I look like? I was born yesterday. I mean, there's zero proof. And even if you were on the job, there's zero proof that you were the lead and that you actually wasn't just a helper in there grabbing screwdrivers and stuff, which is pretty common also. And usually when they're showing me pictures, I remember like all my helpers used to do that. They would take pictures of jobs I would do, and then they help me with, and they'd be like, then go show everybody, look at this job I did. And then people would hire him to do it and then wonder why it didn't look quite the same when Mike wasn't there, because I was the actual master installer and they were the apprentice helper. And you know, they could do a job that looked similar, but it was definitely not as good because I had a lot more experience and I was better at what I was doing. So, yeah, I don't really, the picture thing drives me crazy. And then they won't stop showing them to you. Like, no, you got to see these. No, you got to see these. I'm like, nah, man, I'm good. I got it. Because I don't care what they say. I only care, like, I instantly am going to know what they're about the second I work with them.
Yeah.
Like, first thing, you know, and when we're interviewing people, and this will be good for Devorah and Amin, as you guys get your houses, Samira, I know you're working with this. First thing I'm looking for is if you set an appointment up, they're supposed to be there at 8 o'clock, did they show up on time?
Mm-hmm.
First check mark against them. Did they show up, like the first meeting with you, did they show up on time? Because if they're an hour late, when I usually will never interview one person at a time, I'll always get 2 to 3 to come, like around like half hour apart. So that way I'm like, if one flakes out on me, I'm not sitting out the house just wasting my time. And anyone that shows up late, I just cancel the appointment. They're half hour late, then guess what? They just ran into the next contractor's time. And I'm just like, hey man, don't bother, man. I already, you know, it's not, you know, you have to come back another time. I'm already out.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I do. And honestly, every person I've ever done that with, they've come back and worked for me later, and they've always been boneheads.
Yeah.
You know, it's always been like, it's never have I been like, oh, that one guy showed up an hour late and he was awesome. Man, I have to make sure I give people a chance that are an hour late. They just aren't. I mean, it's like, so I'm not telling you there won't be that one special person, but if they're not truly communicating with you, like I'm in a traffic jam, because communication is part of this too. It's not just, if they just show up even 15 or 20 minutes late and they don't call and say anything, then that's disrespectful to me. So
Yeah.
I would be pissed about that. So not that I'm saying I wouldn't work with them, give them a chance. I'm just checking it off. I'm taking a note, because when they start telling me all this, oh, dude, I do what I say, and I'm a man of honor, and you know, you could trust what I say, Scott. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, the only thing I know so far is you said you'd be here at 8, you came at 8:30. So I only have one point of reference, and so far it ain't looking like anything you're saying is true. And then there starts to be this disconnection. So this is the key to really like seeing around. Like, I like to be able to see what others aren't seeing in this business. And part of seeing what others aren't seeing is seeing inconsistencies in what people say versus what they do. And when you spot those inconsistencies, it's going to allow you to really quickly like make good choices, right? And just say, you know what, I'm not feeling good about this person. Should I fire him? And first question I'm always going to ask anyone in this group, if you guys bring that question to me, is like, let's talk a little bit about the things they've done. Okay. Right. Time, if they quote your price and keep it, does the work look good that they said they could do? Are they finishing things, or are they just starting a bunch of things, right? If the answer is no, then look, you just fire them and move on. It's not a big deal, right? Go back to the drawing board until you get someone good. And when you get someone good, they're going to be a value piece to you. That's going to be a big asset to your business, because one good person can weed in. Like most of my crews that are doing all my flips right now, almost every one of them are related at some level.
Cool.
Other than one. So 3 of the crews are related at some level. So that's the thing that happens. Anyhow, that's some cool stuff. So focus on one thing at a time, right? Don't go like thinking you got to do everything. If you could just get guys in there demoing, maybe getting the framing going, getting your permits pulled and ran, or your drawings done, just, you know, you got the house moving, you're good.
Yeah. So when it comes to demo, actually, I think Samara and I were talking the other day or yesterday about demo. We don't need permits to do demo, right? Unless we're like tearing down an exterior wall.
I don't know the answer to that in Montgomery County.
Okay. What about counties that you have worked in, like Baltimore?
So Baltimore City, yes, and Baltimore County, no.
Okay.
So it's kind of like, you know, that's the thing. It's actually different in every county. But with that being said, would I take a shot at doing the demo? And if I get caught, what's the worst they're going to do? Make you pull permits? It's not a big deal. You're pulling them anyhow.
You would plan on doing
if you're already like, no, I already got them down there, I'm waiting for them to be approved, you're probably not going to have to be a big deal.
Gotcha.
Even when I get caught like at the complete end of a rehab and it's fully been done without permits, it's like $1,000 fine. It's not like the end of the
That's for county though, right?
City or county, Baltimore City or county. I mean, I don't know what it is for Montgomery or, you know, PG. I've been caught and it was never a big deal. So I don't think it's, most of the time, as long as you're pulling permits and like you're in the process of it, you probably, you know, they'll probably just be like, hey, finish it up. You aren't allowed to do that. You can always play stupid.
Okay.
I still do it today, and then they laugh at me and be like, oh yeah, MP Green Management. Sure you didn't know. We looked and you have 7 houses. I'm like, okay.
Hey.
Guys using a different LLC.
This is Samara. I actually went today and pulled a windows permit.
Okay.
So I'm hoping to get started with demo next week on the Strathmore property.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So that one you're going to go and do the to just do window permits is what you're going to do.
I got my sledgehammer. Let's go.
Okay, I need to go to Lowe's and I'm gonna buy a few sledgehammers by this weekend. So, yeah, but that's the plan so far.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I know people doing that. John and Jay did that on their house on Northern Parkway, and it is better than not pulling permits.
Right.
And it is the best way to look at it. So it definitely reduces your risk.
Yeah.
Don't know why we don't do it on every house, because, why we just don't pull a window permit on every house. Used to be my thing, but then my uncle's like, oh, I kept forgetting to do it. And then I'm like, did you pull the window permit? Nah. Like, well, I don't know if it would have worked if you would have actually pulled it. It might have saved us. Because sometimes what happens is neighbors call in and they're like, hey, they're doing work next door. And the first thing the inspector does is look and say, oh, do they have any permits at all? If the answer is you have no permits, they're going to come out and check it out. But if you have something going on, like a window permit, then they're like, oh, no big deal. A lot of times they won't come out and even check because there's, you pulled some kind of permit. Plus, when you hang the permit in the window for the windows, it actually looks like you've pulled permits on the property. So it kind of puts the neighbors off your trail a little bit. And what's the only reason that window permit works is because in Baltimore, they don't come out and inspect windows when you do them. So an inspector will not be pulled to the house by that window permit. Now, anything that needs to be inspected, that's a different story. So if you would pull a permit where an inspector had to come look at it, then you wouldn't want to do that because they're going to come out and see you did like 800 other things and didn't put it on the permit. So the window permit is the only little workaround. I mean, they just give you a little bit of an advantage of not getting caught. But always a risk, and I just don't worry that I don't know, for me, the consequence isn't big enough for me to worry about the risk. But it is always a risk that exists when you don't pull permits. So just everybody knows that. And, if you get caught, you're going to cost you a little bit of money. But if you pull permits, it's going to cost you that money guaranteed. So as long as I think I have a reasonable chance of getting away with it, most of the time I'm not going to pull permits just because I have a reasonable chance of getting away with it. So
in my case, that's not. I have to pull permits, right? Because I've got a contractor that lives next door.
Well, also because of the amount of work you're doing, I'd also say, your county you're in is definitely a more uppity county. It's not a loose, easy county. So I would say for sure that you would have a little chance of getting away with it. Because the more work you're doing, the longer it takes. So the longer you're exposed.
Right.
So if you're doing something where you're in and out like 5 or 6 weeks and you're not making a big mess, you're not doing a ton of work on the outside, then, that's going to be less risky than doing a 100K renovation.
Okay.
So next door to a contractor doesn't help either.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah.
The nice thing when you pull permits, if you have crazy neighbors, you can tell them kind of F off if you have to. But it's like you get in a spot, we had one where we didn't pull permits and the neighbor was kind of a worker. And he was like, yeah, I really need work. You guys need to give me some work. I know what's going on. You don't have no permits over here. And I need to come in here and make sure this work's being done right. We actually had to just give him money because the work he kept doing was so bad. Eventually, we got him to cut the grass, and he was even messing that up. We were just paying him to cut the grass, even though he just would hack it up, and then we'd have to pay someone else to come cut it right. But Steve's like, I'm not going to keep paying the guy. I was like, you realize we're not actually paying him to cut the grass. We're just paying him not to snitch on us right now. This is just payoff. We're just giving him like $100 every 2 weeks just not to call the county on us. That's all we're doing, man. So just keep giving him the money. It's okay. It only ended up being about $500 total when it was said and done. I just didn't we were doing a little bit of a big renovation without permits.
Right. I was actually thinking about talking to him about being a consultant, and that's it.
If you're pulling permits, I wouldn't even cross any. I would not even talk to him.
Yeah.
If you're pulling permits, don't bring in a neighbor. It's never good. Anything in life, what I found is that you want to have a bigger pool of people to pick through. And, it's a reason I don't work with family that much. I do lucky that my uncle ended up being someone who was good at this, but I was in the business 2 years before he came to work for me. He always had a really high interest in it. He would come look at stuff for free with me. He did a couple houses on his own and managed them well. So I had just had an opportunity to see if he was actually good at this before I ever hired him. And because family in general are usually not great, it's not because family sucks. It's because anytime you have a pool of one person to pick from, well, the math is against you, right? I mean, the math is against you. Simple as that, right? Because I mean, what I do is I'm looking at 50 contractors, so I'm going to have a much better chance of picking a good one. If you just have that neighbor, you got one dude. So chances of that neighbor being like priced correctly, doing good work, being available, probably not all that high. And then if you decide that you're not going to work with them, or things go bad, or you have to let them go, then you got them sitting in your face the whole time, calling the county, messing with you, really being almost butthurt essentially. So I would just not even, I just be like, hey, I got all my own crews. Sorry, man. I got to make sure I keep them busy first if he asks. That's all.
Okay.
Because if he isn't busy in Montgomery County, if he's not busy, then he probably sucks anyhow, or he's too priced. I mean, he's too high in price.
Right.
I feel like anyone who's available, when we catch people, we're catching them in between jobs usually.
Right. Makes sense. Okay.
All right, cool. So there's good stuff there. I think Nick has a deal. Let me text him.
Oh, I was getting one more question, Mike, before you leave. The template budget, is that on the website or?
Yeah, it should be on the website.
Okay.
If not, no. If not, maybe I emailed it to Devora, so maybe I can. I'm having a problem with my stuff right now. Let me see. It might be working. I had to reset it. Let me text Nick and let him know, and I'll see if I can. There's a way. It should be in there, by the way.
Okay. I'll dig and look for it. If I can't find it, I'll post it on the Mastermind group. Thanks, Mike. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, let me know if you can't find it. Send me a text, and I'll make sure you get it, because it should be in the resource center. And basically, yeah, it's a template, but this is something she messed with. But in the template, there's even more in there. There's like details. It's actually from the higher level group. We spent like 8 hours going through the budget and the higher level training. But I realized that when you guys are kind of getting into the same stuff as the higher level people, when you start managing contractors, so I figured just give it to you. I wasn't like, well, you got to join the higher level group to have this awesome document. It's a really great document. I use it in my business right now every day. So I'm using this is the exact document. Matter of fact, I haven't even changed the color on it. Like it isn't even branded with it's literally just the one I use. So that's kind of like straight from the horse's mouth, essentially.
Okay, cool.
Let's take a look at Nick has a deal he wants us to take a look at. And does anybody else on the call have a deal they want to look at while we're at it? I've seen that. And actually, Devora, just so you know, I did actually go through your budget, make some changes, and I sent it to Tanya because it wasn't working at the bottom. It wasn't telling me how much the total was for whatever reason. 1 second. Yeah, knock your thing off.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I said I was having some issues with the budget because I'm not touching I don't think I'm touching the basement because it's like a half basement. It's just like a utility room.
So take that out then, because I seen you put like 100 sheets for the basement and all that, and they're probably, based on what I've seen, you don't really need that much sheetrock, so you can probably cut that down some.
Am I supposed to finish the utility room or just leave it completely unfinished?
Utility room in the basement?
It's just like washer dryer and that's it, pretty much.
Yeah, so what you're doing in the basement, just paint the walls, paint the floors, and paint the ceiling, and just put some lights down there.
Everything's cement.
Yeah, we usually paint it though so it looks nice and it feels fresh, and get some nice lights down there so it's lit, and then you don't have to finish the unfinished space down there.
Okay.
We want it to feel like there's not dead bodies being cut up down there. So we want to make it less creepy essentially. If they have to go to the basement. It's not uncommon though to go to unfinished basement.
I need to adjust that. Also, there's not going to be a bathroom there or a bedroom there. So then the bathroom I wanted to add on to the main level because there's only one bathroom upstairs.
Okay, that sounds about right.
There's one bathroom upstairs, but I think we need one for the main level as well, correct?
Do you have the room in the main level? Because that's you have to make sure you have it there. What I would suggest for you is the same thing I told to Scott. You have your budget now, but in order to really finalize your budget, you kind of need a drawing with graph paper. So that would just do like a basic drawing, and then I can look at it with you. What's really best is you do the drawing, do your best to send it to me. Let me look at it. I'll actually look at it with Tanya because she reviews mine with me, so we can really get multiple eyes on it.
The agent doesn't live in Baltimore, so she says she can't get me back into it until after closing. I mean, I guess.
Well, then just do it first day of closing. Not a big deal. I mean, yeah.
I mean, does it have to be exact with graft? Oh, it probably should be because you really need to.
It should be. I mean, ultimately, I mean, because I can look at it, but it's a row home. So, I mean, if you know, tell me where you think you're going to put it, but you don't have to do the whole house. Just do the first floor. First upstairs sounds like it's staying the same. First floor is really all we're thinking about, seeing if there is room for a bath there. If not, then you might have to put it in the basement. Is the basement tall enough to finish?
I mean, it's a utility room. There's mostly crawl space, and then there's, let's say, maybe a 15 by 15 room.
Oh, good. So you might be able to finish that 15 by 15 room.
But that's including the washer dryer. I mean, you can't put a bathroom and a bedroom there. I mean, there would just be empty space, like maybe a family room or something.
Well, you could put a family room, bathroom, and laundry room there or something. You could do laundry room / bathroom and a family room down there. And you don't have to put a bedroom down there, but it might have to be the place your second bath goes if you don't have room on first floor.
Okay.
And row homes, normally it ends up in the basement, normally.
Okay. So I'll look into that, which if I could get on the first floor, I would rather do it. I think it's much more appealing.
Yeah. Well, if you finish the basement, it's going to be more appealing, and for your price, you're going to get more money. Even if it's just a 12 by 12 room with a bathroom and, you know, maybe put the washer and dryer in the bathroom, something like that. People at row homes are totally going to be okay with it. Their expectations aren't as high because it's just a $160,000 or $70,000 row home.
It's not like a typical row home. It's a large row home. It doesn't feel like a row home.
Yeah.
It's a complete different feel.
It's still a row home, though. Anyway, you talk about it, though. It's still a semi-detached. It's not a big house, and it's also it's detached, number one. It's semi-detached, so it is what it is, and the price point's not that high.
Right. So I don't know if it's even worth touching the basement for that price.
But yeah, I think you need to touch the basement probably. Would be my guess. You might not need to if you have a clear space to put it on the first floor, but I'll tell you that in poorer neighborhoods, people want finished basements, even if it's just a 12 by 12 finished room.
Okay.
So there's some options I can go through with you. One of the things I've been talking to Michael Chow about is doing like what I call a luxury unfinished basement, where you basically leave it unfinished, paint the walls, put some plugs in there, put some heat in the room, put carpet on the floor. Costs a couple $1,000, and you're all good to go. If you know it's space that could be used, it is, and then you don't call it finished, so that way you don't have to worry about people judging it as finished, because as finished they'd be like, that's pretty cheesy. But when you call it unfinished, they're like, well, that's a super nice unfinished basement. I could use it. I could actually use the space. And so I've been doing that on a lot of my rentals and stuff, and I'm actually going to do it on a rehab coming up soon. And I've done it on rehabs before. It works really well. So you don't really have appraisal issues, so you don't have to worry about. You're only doing the basement if you think the buyer is going to want it. So if you give me a drawing, I can tell you if I think that's the case. Okay. And also finishing a 15 by 15 basement is not very much money or work. Okay. It's very, very, very cheap. And it might be the only place to put that bathroom without like messing your design up. Also, I can help your budget. If you give me a design, I can know more like whether you need 100 sheets or you don't need 100 sheets, because 15 by 15, I don't think you need 100 sheets for that actually.
No,
I used to have a math model.
Yeah, they're about, what are they, 4 by 8 or 4 by 6?
4 by 8. Yeah. So you only need 4 sheets of wall, and you don't put any on the ceiling. So 4 sheets times 4 is that, all right, let's see if we get 8, 16, 32. Oh, is that 32 sheets? 4. 16. Okay. All right. Yeah, 16. So it's only 16 sheets. Maybe let's call it 20 sheets. And then we don't usually put sheetrock on the ceilings. We just spray it all flat black, and then we just put sheetrock around the wall with trim and doors. So you're talking like 20, 25 sheets max for that. And if you had a bath or something, you might need more.
Double check the waterproofing there. I need to get back in there a third time. Another question is, in terms of a closing, so I just got, like, during this call, they texted me and said the only time the title company has is next Thursday at 10 a.m. Like, that's a really crappy time for me.
Tell them you don't want to come to settlement. Just tell them that you want them to have someone come to your office. Just you pay $200. I usually pay $200 every settlement, and they send a settlement officer to me the day before settlement. Because it's totally not worth me leaving my house, and I just have people come to my house, wherever I'm eating lunch.
Because at my first business, I have like business hours starting at 11, and there's no way I can close my house. Yeah. At work.
Yep. If you so you can do it the day before. If you're not doing it when they come, which you don't need to, and I wouldn't suggest you even start that habit because it's completely useless. I personally would just have them have someone come out to you and just say, I need a remote closer to come out to me.
Or can I theoretically go the day before?
Yeah, you tell them you need to pre-sign then, whatever you want. Exactly. You run the show here.
Okay, and how would I get the key though?
Well, then you tell them I'll pay you to overnight the keys to me. When settlement's done, overnight the keys and the documents, the original documents to me once we're done, and just put it on my settlement. You know, give them $25 or whatever it costs to do that.
Okay, that sounds fine.
That would be the best way. I haven't been to a settlement in a really long time. I almost refuse to go. I've been going lately because I have one lender it makes me go, but I've never been to a retail settlement because those are really bad.
Like an old person who's checking every document. Like, I don't have time for that. I did 10 minutes.
I had one. When I went in business for myself, the very first one, it was with this crazy company that I tried never to work with, but somehow I end up working with them, and I get like sucked into their company, and they're completely. Every time I've worked with them, I get there and they're never. They always like, no, we're ready for you. And I get there 3.5 hours later. They're like, we got the docs now. And then somebody's perusing through the 700 docs. It was like 5.5 hours I was there. I got there at 1 o'clock. I left there at 7:30 at night. And then it wasn't even complete. And he had to come meet my mom at G&M's the next day to finish it. And I'm like, I'm never going to work with you again. And then somehow 6 months later, I had another deal with him. Somehow it just didn't, he slipped through the cracks. The way it happens sometimes. But yes, not going to settlements is a really good idea. You have better things to do.
Okay, yeah. I have to do that anyway.
There's an idea. Settle every time at G&M.
That's a great idea.
double crab cake platter.
Well, I will tell you this. I went to G&M with Tanya like a week ago, and I always said they were good crab cakes. It was the best crab cake I ever had. And I don't know if they've stepped their game back up, but that crab cake was pretty awesome this time. I always hear it's great, and I've had a couple that were good, but like this one was really good.
Yeah.
So I'm now back on G&M.
We like that place. We got to try Coco's though.
The G&M crab cake I just had was not better than Coco's.
Really?
And it was cheaper, so I wouldn't even pick Coco's over that one. So I don't know if it was a good day for them or what it was. So, yeah, no settlements if you can help it. But does that mean sometimes you won't get sucked in? Yeah, sure. You'll get sucked in sometimes. You got to go. But, you got a job. You have a business. And, make them come to you because guess what? You're the customer. So you just say, look, this is what I want. Make it work. I mean, I've had where I've been out of country and they've come to me. Out of the state, not the country. Yeah, out of the state, and what they'll do is they'll go to a title company in that state, local to where I'm at, and they'll just pay them to send someone out to me. Like, they'll help them. They pay them to help.
Hey, Mike.
I just want to double check. That's an additional expense I would have to pay for them to come to me, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, I'm not always, but if they charge you, it is a thing, yes. Okay. Normally they pay like $200 or something. I don't know. But if you come to them and pre-sign, that should not be a cost.
Okay, perfect.
Hey, Mike, this is Samara. I have a question in reference to title companies. The title company that I'm dealing with for Sims, they're saying that we can't go to closing because they can't get any documentation in reference to the water bill for the bank. Okay. I went to Baltimore City today and I got the documentation for the water bill for their bank. Is it possible to I don't know if they don't take it. Is it possible have you ever had to switch title companies midstream? Like, is that a possibility? And I could just go with Virginia because I'm getting tired of these. I've never used.
Let me ask you this. Do you totally love the deal? I mean, if you really look at the deal, it's Sims. Yeah. So I know you like the other one, Strathmore, and that's done. Right. But now is a really good opportunity. This is what I do, and I'm not telling you to do any one thing. I'm only telling you to take a break, stop, and say, now you have an opportunity to get in or out of the deal because they won't close it in time. So you might just be like, go back and look at the deal and make sure the numbers work. You really want to rehab it because maybe you don't. Maybe you're like, you know what? Instead of doing that deal, I'll pass on that one and go to another one. It's a business decision. And I'm not telling you to do either, by the way. I'm only saying that what my normal practice is, whenever way deep into a deal, I have an issue I can't get around. I often double check and make sure I still really like the deal because sometimes I found that I look at it later on and I've gotten more detailed about it and I've dug into the estimates more and like it's going to end up not being a great deal. And if it ends up being the case for your house because you have a lot more information today than you did when you bought it, maybe it's another time just to look and make sure you're still 100% in. If you're not, then I would talk about saying, hey, if you guys can't settle it, I need to move on. Because this would be an opportunity for you to get out. Now, I'm not telling you to do either one of those things, by the way. I'm only saying take a second. This is a good opportunity for you to double, triple check your deal, because I don't like to bring any deals in my company that don't make money. And here's the thing. There'll be enough opportunity for thin deals on accident, right? When everything lined up and it just didn't work out kind of. So I never like to start in a hole. So if you think that you're not going to be able to nail your numbers, and because as we got into that thing, it was a lot of work in there. So I would just go back, look at your comps, go back, look at the budget, all the new information you have now. Are you still 100%? If in your gut you feel like, you know what, you're not, then we should have a discussion around it, because you have Strathmore, so you can move on.
Yeah.
And we can talk offline more about it if you'd like, after you have the heart to heart with yourself on it. Because I'm just like, look, I know it's crazy advice to tell you to maybe dump a deal, but also it's my job. You know, it's my job as a coach to make sure you do I don't want you to sitting at the end not having a good result though. And by the way, this is exactly what I do in my own business. It's a discipline move. It's so difficult to be able to do that.
I've just been trying to push this thing to closing since last month, and it keeps on getting delayed because of the ransomware thingy.
Sure.
So.
Well, now you get the opportunity, make some lemonade out of lemons, and triple check your deal and make sure you really love it still. If you do, then let's talk about some ways to push it through. And yes, you could switch the title company. There's a lot of things you could do. But let's first, before you do all that, before you go move mountains, let's make sure you still love it. Make sure also that, like, when you're going to be selling it, isn't changed the value at any, because I've had times where they've taken months to settle something and then it's pushed to a slower time of year, and now it's devalued the property by doing so. And I always just do that. I've had times where I've said no. Often I don't, because I'm just like, normally I do a lot of my work up front, but if I get in and my project manager comes back like, dude, you missed a lot of stuff on this one. We dug in and had a lot of issues, and I can get out the deal. Then I usually get out the deal. I'm not saying lose a deposit either, because, you're just going to be like, look, you guys can't settle this. You can't make this work. Because what it is, the reason they can't settle it, there is a document they can sign saying they would be responsible, but the banks are not willing to sign it right now.
Right.
If you're willing to sign it, then you can say, look, I need my deposit back. You're not willing to sign it. Now, all the other sellers I'm working with are signing it. It's just basically saying, if you have a water bill, when this all gets cleaned up, if there's a water bill you should have paid, you'll pay it.
Right, exactly.
I know the banks are being jerks about it. I have a HUD property. They're like, it'll settle in August. And so I have to decide whether I'm actually going to go look for another property, probably, because I don't even think, but I really do like the deal still. So I'm not totally on board with it. And but am I going to go triple check it? I get an opportunity to go with my project manager, let him see the property, and make sure when he gets his numbers together, they match up with mine. And we can really go in and do some deep work now before I tell them no, or before I stick in and say yes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, tough. Because look, I have 100% confidence in your ability to find deals. So let's just leave that at that. And the point that would really be a great thing to do is, like, either say yes or no. But if you do go forward, make sure you have all the answers that you need in order to make sure this is a profitable deal for you.
All right.
Right. And I'll talk to you offline, because there's some other things that I think you might be able to avoid too that could be helpful.
All right. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Make sure you text me or call me sometime in the next couple of days once you think about it, because I have some other value to add to it that I prefer to do offline, because I think it might be helpful for you.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Good luck with it. Sorry, Nick, if you were waiting. I forgot about Nick. Hold on one second. Let me find his deal. All right. That's why we were on the email. I did warn everyone that I get distracted easy. All right. That's not Nick's. I don't think Nick actually emailed me. Nick Blackburn. All right, I know he just sent it to me, actually. Stores. Got an offer on my property I just put on the market one day in. It's actually a funny story to tell everybody what I'm looking for. I don't think Nick actually sent me anything. I think he sent me a cell phone text, but that wasn't really, I don't think that address was on. Let me look at that. So I got an offer on my property. So first of all, I got a guy text me and called me like 14 times in a row yesterday. I just put my property on the market like yesterday afternoon. And like an hour later, I think he must have went out and shown it. Client wants it. And he's like calling me, texting me, saying, hey, can I talk to you real quick? What does that sound like, guys? I mean, it sounds like what we do, right? So I'm not responding because I know if I respond, then I'm on the hook to keep responding or I end up getting deemed as rude. So eventually he comes in about 8 o'clock night, says, we're putting an offer in, but we need to answer 12 o'clock tomorrow. Or we're taking it off the table. So and I still haven't responded to him, by the way. I still haven't even responded. I mean, I've not even like hey, check in later, nothing like that. No response at all is usually the best. Because if you respond anything, then they essentially what they're trying to do is hook you in. That's why I always say when you text the agent, right, it's about getting them hooked in by saying, hey, is this property still available? That's very easy to get a yes or a no, which hooks them in. And now if they don't respond to you or talk to you, it feels rude because they now admit that they're in the world, right, that they exist. So I have not answered. And eventually he told me the 12 o'clock thing. Then I finally responded, and I responded with, okay, thanks for the heads up. I said, well, based on 12 o'clock, my investor's out of the country. We're not going to be able to give you a response by then. So I won't bother even opening it, man. Thanks for the heads up. And then I just let that sit for like 2 hours, and they hit me back. He's like, well, I talked to my client, and he said he could do Friday at 7. I'm like, oh, I might be able to work it out by then. Thanks, man. And this is the only text I've had with him because he was like trying to bully me into like a quick decision because he doesn't want to get in a multiple offer situation and lose the deal. So I'm like, oh, so what benefit does it have for me to take your offer now because you're worried that I'm going to get a higher offer? If I'm going to get a higher offer, then I'm going to wait for that, sir. I mean, basically people don't even think even a little bit about the other side in negotiations. And, not saying that he should be concerned with his side, but man, I ain't never heard somebody just straight out tell me like, well, you won't pick my offer. And I haven't even just looked at the offer like an hour ago. And it's like 5K under list. It's actually could be an offer I would accept potentially because he could settle quickly and he doesn't want an inspection. And I was listing it for 320 and I originally only thought 300. So, if I get 350, I could be happy with that. It's a pretty solid deal to make about 50K on it. So, and then when we're looking at our business, it's about looking at where our money's going to come in. All right, 1 second. So, we look at where our money's going to come in. And so I might take it, but I'm not going to. Bullying me into it is probably the worst thing to try because then now it becomes a competition. And unfortunately, I have all the cards. You can't really win this competition because I'm in control. So I don't want to go through that. So let me see. Nick actually had a property, and I'll wait for Nick. Let me text him and let him know. See if maybe he's jumping on now. Let's see. Which is the house? Got something here. That's a movie or something. I don't really have like an address or anything. Just gave me a couple of videos. All right. One deal. Who else has any questions or anything that you want to ask while we're on? And I'm going to just see what's up with Nick because I
have a question.
Sure. Hey, Sean.
Hey. It's a general question. I've been getting, some people who have split levels. Mm-hmm. And so I was just wondering, the few I've looked at, they're mostly just outdated. So, have you done many of those? What do you typically do with those?
The question is really general because specifically, what are you really asking? Should you do a split level? Is it a safe investment? Is that the question? Or?
Well, I mean, is there much you can change as far as layout or anything? Is it worthwhile to even look at it from that standpoint? When I look at them, I'm like, okay, they're 3-1s, mm-hmm. and they're outdated. They haven't been in bad shape or anything. So
yeah. They're usually not bad renovations. They're usually split levels is usually like a 1970 to a 1980, maybe 1960s. And they're generally not in awful shape. So they're pretty easy rehabs to do. But because they're cut up in levels, they kind of don't have a basement. But the basement's somewhat above grade. So I always make sure that basement's finished. I usually try to put a bed and a bath somewhere, getting it to 4.2 at least. or a 3-2. 3-2 is always going to be our minimum. We always need to find a way to make a 3-2 if we can. Generally, I wouldn't recommend doing like a 3-1. Doesn't mean if you find a bunch of comps in the neighborhood that are 3-1 that are consistent and all you can do is a 3-1, I would buy that property. But most of the time when we buy properties, there's plenty of 3-2s, 4-3s, other properties that have the bedroom count. And when that's the case, then we want to make sure we have it also. So split levels, where they get tricky as far as comping is, they actually give credit to all their space, their basement space and their upper space, because their basement space, anything that's more than half above grade, they'll actually count it as above grade space, but it's not technically really like is usable. So if you see a split level that's 1,700 square foot, it'll actually feel more like a 1,200 square foot colonial. And it's very similar when you look at like split foyers are that way too. Right, there's a split foyer will feel like a 1,200 square foot split foyer will actually feel bigger because you get to use the whole basement because it's kind of above grade. So it feels like more friendly, walkout, usable space. It's not like you're in a dungeon. A lot of people will put their living room, dining room, and kitchen in a basement on a split foyer. I've seen that happen quite often. So when you have these split levels, just recognize that they can be a little bit funky with the square footage. So when you're comping, try to find other things that feel about the same. I know that's like not a very scientific way of doing it, but like, I've had times where people are like, well, on paper, this house is like 2,000 square feet. And then they show me another house that on paper is also 2,000 square feet, but it also then has 1,000 square foot basement. It's a beautiful colonial. It has a better layout and it feels way better essentially, even though on paper, they're the same. With a split level, often you'll want to make sure that your house feels about the same as the house you're looking at. You can use a Cape Cod comp. You can use a split foyer comp, a rancher comp for those. Often that's all you'll get. You won't often have like other split levels, but if you do have other split levels that are the same, then that's awesome because that's going to be a great comp. It's going to be easy to figure out, but you often have to end up, something that's a Maryland thing. We don't have a lot of neighborhoods that are like every house is the same. We get a lot of variation. So you often will find comps that you're going to have to kind of, connect some dots. So I love split levels. I've done plenty of them, quite a few. I mean, I don't know if any human could have done more than me. Because I don't really pass on them. So if I get a good deal on a split level, I've never passed on one. Same thing with a split foyer. I would say that I've probably done Cape Cod, ranchers, split foyers, and split levels are probably the designs that I've done the most of. I get to do colonials every once in a while, but that's a very premium look and premium design. So it tends to go, it tends to be less making it work essentially, right? Less design change. And so you'll see I end up doing a lot of houses that need design change. So yeah, I love split levels and nothing bad to say about them, but that's about the biggest rundown I can give you on it is, just look, compare apples to apples with it.
Okay. That definitely helps. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Would you be able to help me look at a neighborhood when you get a minute after Nick's stuff?
No, Nick's out. He said his went under contract. LOL. So he's done. He just texted me and said it's under contract. Sure, man. Tell me about the neighborhood.
It's over there in Tremont. We just finished. It was supposed to be a rehab for my rental, to be a rental property. And the original.
Do you want to comp something?
Yeah, originally the comps were like 130, but there's like 4 or 5 houses for sale now that are between like 150 and 155. So I don't know like what's going on.
They're trying to pump the neighborhood up.
Yeah, so I've been planning out changing a few things to upgrade it to a flip quality and send it if it's that kind of value add.
Yeah, you mean if the values went up? Because I have seen that a couple neighborhoods around there have went up in value quite a bit.
Yeah, I just listed my my other rental rehab. We listed it for 128, and I got we're in contract at 140 with no seller help.
Nice. I think that part of the market is getting very desirable right now because it's just there's not a lot of cheap properties out there that are because some of these neighborhoods like Emerson Villas and Tremont, those neighborhoods are not bad Baltimore neighborhoods. They're kind of like pretty desirable. They're on the upswing. They're close to something usually. I don't know what, but they're always close to something. And they're just they're kind of making a resurgence. So give me your address of the property you want to comp.
It's 5 South Tremont.
Tree, R-E, like a tree?
1E.
M-U-N-T. Yeah, it's always like the Baltimore way, right?
Yeah, there's one on Tremont now. It's one block down, and it's under contract. The listing price was like 155.
Row home.
Yeah. But it's all pending contracts. I don't think nothing's closed yet.
So what we do on those, Jason, is we'll take a look and see how fast it's sold, and we have to make some educated guess, essentially. Like if it went pretty quick, if say they listed it at 150 and it sold pretty quick, we can make an educated guess it got close to 150. So maybe it's only 140 because a lot of times they have help and all that. Maybe it's 145, but we can guess it's more than 130 or more than 125 now, and that's going to become a comp for you. And not only is it going to become a comp, it'll be a great comp because it's going to be a new comp, a very fresh comp. So, versus like if you see comps that are 5 and 6 months old, well, appraisers don't really look more than 6 months back often. So if a lot of your comps are new, it'd be nice to make sure, they're going to be great comps because they'll be there for you while you're on the market and you're going through all your appraisals and they won't just disappear on you. I've had times where I've had like one comp and it was like 5 months old. By the time I finished the rehab, it wasn't there anymore. And, it kind of got tricky. So knowing about looking at the comps that way. So let's see. So we are seeing, if I just was even new, I don't know a lot about the neighborhood. It's not my thing over there. I don't do a lot over there. But I can tell you that just really quickly looking, there's plenty of houses from 148 to 155. So it's not like it's first thing I'm trying to establish is like, did someone get lucky and get a big stupid number? This proves to me that's not the case because there's 148 to 155. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 properties. So it's a thing, right? It's a new thing. It's something that's happening. So the question now is, what street are you on? Tremont. There's 103 South Tremont, 130.
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about. That's one block down. Oh, no, it was 108 South Tremont. That's at 155.
Okay, we'll look at that one next. And see, this one might be a little older too. So yeah, that's 11/28/18. So about 6 months ago. So they'll be coming into the spring. And let's see what the rehab quality looks like too. Because it could be that it was just like an okay rehab. I don't totally look like they opened it up. I think they did just open it, the kitchen. It's okay. It's pretty nice looking.
Yeah, that was one of the comps when I bought the place. I bought it in December, so that would have been one of the comps we were looking at.
Let's keep looking. So here's your 108 Tremont. Let's see what this one might. So, okay, obviously much better looking rehab, by the way, but not like this. Let's really see. Now, are you going to open yours, like kind of make yours this or no?
I'm going to do the kitchen like that. I'm going to open that wall to add, like a little breakfast island thing there.
Yeah, they kind of went a little above and beyond, didn't they? Like some of the stuff they're using looks really nice.
My bathroom and kitchen's about the same quality, but.
Okay. Finished basement yours?
Yeah, with a full bathroom down there.
Yeah, are you 4.2 right now?
3.2, unless you include the basement as a bedroom.
Let's see. It looks like they're including the basement. Do you have a bedroom in the basement?
Yeah, with a closet.
Oh, cool. So it's 4.3 then. We always count the one in the basement for listing purposes. Plus, they did also. They were 3.1, 1.1 in the basement. So it's that you have the exact same house. Are you 1,200 square feet?
1180.
Pretty much the same thing. Okay. Without really worth talking about. The next thing that could be a value piece would be parking. If they have like off-street parking in the back, is that something you can put on? So they do have off-street parking in the back.
I was going to do came out to be about 6,500 in upgrades, including putting a cement parking pad back there.
Well, I would just tell you this. I don't know that you need to put a cement parking pad. You probably could just do rocks, honestly, at that price point. I don't think it's going to matter. Just as long as they got a place to park their car. You just throw some rocks down. It's going to cost like $500 versus like $2,000 or $2,500 to put a pad in.
Gotcha.
Unless you got a cheap, connection on that. But I at that price point, I never do. I don't even. I actually at higher price points, I do rocks and get away with it, like $250. I actually put one. I'm trying to think. What was the highest house I sold? I've sold houses for pretty expensive prices. I never put concrete driveways in anymore because every time I put the rocks, no one says anything, and I'm like, that's a lot cheaper. So unless I'm just in a neighborhood where I have to do that. Now let's look at days on market and all that. So this one, 12 days could be used. The owner's name, 154. No help, or is it under contract? Or settled? It's pending. Okay, so it sold pretty quickly. I would assume it has help, and I would assume that it's at least netting like 145 based on what I'm seeing. That would be like a minimum. It could be netting 150, 155. We don't know. You won't know that. So I always, when I'm making an educated guess, I kind of want to feel like, okay, what's the low end of it? Because I'd be surprised if it netted 140, just for the record. Based on the quality of the work and the house and everything, I don't think they need to desperately sell this. So that's my opinion on that particular property. And let's see what other properties that are close to you are going for and how you compare. So you're very comparable to this. You're actually even bigger. It's 0.3 miles away, but I don't feel like you're probably not in a different neighborhood, are you? Actually, looks like you could be in a little different neighborhood.
I'm just right down there in Tremont.
Yeah, this says Upland, so you're actually in a different neighborhood. So let's cut that one out. I think we can get rid of this one potentially. So let's see what else we got. So this one is in your neighborhood, so that one's very close to you and very comparable. Smaller in square footage. I mean, quality of work again. They got all those crazy tray ceilings and really high end rehab. It's always funny to do the highest end rehabs. It seems like in the poorest neighborhoods.
Cranston is like that too. That house that you came to with Delonte, there was just the one sold for 162 on the same block.
Wow, that's good for you.
Jumping up too.
So you can see they got the parking in the back, obviously. I don't know if you got to do all that, though. That's like crazy. They got no backyard. That would actually be a complaint. There's no backyard.
Yeah.
People just want enough to put one car or maybe one, or I think you can do one without like completely like demolishing your backyard. So everything about this house, it's close. You got 3,100 in help, 8 days on the market, super quick, no problem selling it. And what did they net? 155, so 150 on this one. I mean, yeah, if I was making a decision based on these two comps, I'd be like 145, 150 all day. Yeah, I totally agree with that. So, I mean, just based on those two, I mean, these are legitimate comps. They're not like fluffy comps by any means. 0.1 miles away is super close. And here's another one. Let's just look at one more just to kind of seal the deal. So this doesn't even have a second full bath. That actually is something that is interesting. It's got a red door. Dunkirk.
For some reason, that street, they sell more over there. Or South Ford more. That's like the one street in that neighborhood that's for some reason is different.
Yeah, it sells, but apparently not anymore though, because honestly, you're seeing the comps on the other street. Now this one ain't quite as nice as renovation as the others, but the other ones went for the same price. I mean, this looks a little nicer with the front porch, but I wouldn't say that's even something I'd even consider. You don't have a second half bath, so I mean, you only have a half bath. It actually ended up netting a little under 150, but it's not even got a full second half bath. And do one more and then we're done. I think so this is Amberley. So this one is actually not, it's just clean, but don't have a lot of character to it like some of the others did. And it's just about, you're going to have like the open kitchen and everything like that. So you rehab this nicely.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Outside, if you're willing to take like 140, 145, I knew you would absolutely get that, but you could get as high as 150.
So say you comp something, and just for argument's sake, you say it's worth 150. Is it better to go listed at like 147 or 148 just to grow? Just in hopes to get like a what do you call it?
Bidding war.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, man. So always looking for, and I feel like I was almost like, man, I thought we talked about this a bunch, but actually we never talk about this in this group, but in the higher level group, that's all we talk about because that's like a big thing everyone's dealing with. They're all selling rehabs. They're all strategizing. So I'll walk you guys through quickly since you're dealing with this and you'll be dealing with it soon. And everyone else who's doing a flip will be dealing with it soon. When you're listing your property, you always want to figure out what's called the ARVF, the after repair value fast. And we want to be on that aggressive side of the comps, not low. I don't want you to be, if you think it's 155 coming in at 130, because then you got a lot of ground to make up and people don't like to negotiate a ton. But what we want to do is we want to look at the number we think it would sell at. And then we want to say, okay, would it sell quickly at that number? Like no doubt. So like 144.9, 149.9 is the price in my head that I think it's going to sell pretty quick based on what other houses have sold for. As long as you're comparable to those comps, I haven't seen your house, but if it is, then I'm saying yes. I think if you were like 144.9 to maybe 149.9, they both had low days on the market. So if you were at 144.9, then depending on who's listing the property, just make sure they have some heart. because that's the only thing. That's the only risk you take, is that when you list it a little lower, the agent has to have the heart to push people up high, because you will get a lot of action. You'll get a lot of people, like we were just talking about, a guy that's being super pushy. I'm going to have multiple offers on this house. I might take his offer if I have a couple people supposed to be bringing offers, but if they don't bring one soon, I might take it just because I got a really big profit in it and I want to cash out and get some money coming into my business. So I'm in that spot where I want to make sure that happens. But like, you got to have some heart. And like, most of my best deals, I've had to sit down and look at people in the face and be willing to lose one person in order to go with the better person and create a perfect environment. And a lot of agents don't have that heart. They get like a day or two in and people are being pushy and yelling at them and saying they're unethical and they're calling the realtor's commission. They usually give in right around then. I get butthurt, and I'm just like, I think I get more competitive at that point, because I'm just like, well, then you know what? Now, if you had called me and been nice, like Nikki, she never tells you the story of how we met. Nikki actually convinced me, because she was so nice about it. She actually convinced me to take her client's offer, and it was clearly lower than what I knew I could get. And she was just really nice about it, though. And we kind of talked on the phone for a bit, and we liked each other. And then her client ended up getting cold feet, not going through with it, so we never signed a contract. But and then I ended up getting $7K or $6K more for the house. So I was clearly taking less, but she knew the magic trick was to be nice, that you catch more flies with honey than vinegar. And these people call and try to be pushy, like that's going to work on some people, but it ain't going to work on me. It's just the opposite on me. It's like, it's bad news to do that with me. So that's the thing. So when people are going to try to be put, and then the people that are nice, then that's perfect. When a bunch of people call in, they're really nice, Jason, then I can hold them off long enough to field all the offers. So whoever you're using as your agent, you want to make sure they're doing that. If it's you, same thing, make sure you're doing that, right? Everybody's got to make sure they're going to just not take the first offer you get. And then you got to be strategic about how you keep them in the game. Since you're in that middle group, I will help you with that, obviously. So, as you get into that place, I'm going to really kind of walk you through that. There's a lot of little learning techniques. Are you listing the property, or is there someone else?
I got an agent to do it. But, I kind of like walk through to make sure they're kind of like up to my standards.
For some reason. I see your lips moving.
Hey, can you hear me now?
Your mute's off. Actually.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I lost you.
Yeah, I got a realtor listing it.
I can't hear you for some reason. I don't know why it is. All right, well, whoever, I don't know who, let me know who's listing it. If it's you, then I'll walk you through it. If it's your agent, then it's going to be a struggle.
Mike, he said someone else is listing it.
You got to make sure you're picking someone that can list it for you and actually do a good job. I know Scott could probably do that for you. I'd be willing to list it for you. If you don't have an agent, if you're your own agent, then I'll walk you through how to do it. Just don't pick any random old agent. I have people just like, oh, well, I work with this lady. I'm like, dude, that lady's not a gangster. Don't work with her. Because when it comes to selling your house, like there's a lot of money gets left on the table. It's actually, I was doing a presentation today. I was talking about, it's called the profit triangle. It's something I'm teaching at the higher level in the high performance house flipping. And one of the three like steps, or one of the three profit, we call it like the little profit buckets in the profit triangle, is losing money and not squeezing every penny out of the end of your deal. When you're selling a house, there's so much money left on the table. Over a year of selling like 10 houses, you can easily leave 100 grand on the table, 10 grand a house. Like it's not even a thing to like make an extra 100K simply. Like I have students literally at that higher level that are making extra 100K a year and they're not doing one more house. They're just pulling all more dollars out of every house, like money that was left in that their agents weren't fighting for. And fortunately, some agents, I've never met an agent willing to fight too hard, because, they feel a little bit like they don't like to piss people off, because they like to make sure they're still invited to happy hour. But I'm like, I have 10 grand. I want to make sure I get my 10 grand, right? I want to make sure that there's 10 grand or 5 grand or 3. I don't even care if we're talking about 1,500. 1,500 is 1,500 any way you look at it. I'm going to make some calls and fight people for the 1,500, because like money's money, and that's the way we look at it. And I don't think enough agents take a stance for their clients, because they're so overwhelmed with all this other jargon and crap that their brokers told them. And really, all that you ever need to not worry about ever getting in trouble as an agent is to represent your client. Because see, a lot of people think other agents can turn you in. Not really. Like the realtor commission sees a complaint from an agent to an agent. They're like, whatever. The only time they care is when a customer puts a complaint in. And my customers are never going to complain because I'm getting them more money, and that's all they care about. They're like, Mike did a great job, or someone else did a great job. And I get some agents that are pissed at me, but you know what? That is what it is. If I'm making an extra 100, 150K a year, I don't really care. It is like people say it's so unethical. I'm like, oh, it's so unethical that I didn't take your offer and then, cut my client out and make them lose money. Yeah, that's not unethical. That's me doing my job, right? That's actually, they just, trying to bully you. That's all they're doing. It's like little kids bully you into stuff.
Hey, Mike.
So, whatever you end up doing on it, just make sure you get someone, and whoever you're working with, make sure it's an agent that'll push hard for you. And like,
hey, Mike.
Push hard as far as like knowing when to go forward, when to stop, when to, every little detail, right? There's a lot of little details in a negotiation that are going to net more income. And basically when you have, I'm calling this profit pirates, like these little pirates that run around and steal money from your treasure chest. And it's like, first of all, it's how you're talking to sellers is one of them, right? It's your marketing and your prospecting. And then it's fighting for every dollar on the back end sale. Those three things will eat so much money from your business and from your flips that it's like the difference between you being successful and not successful. So it's a big subject. I mean, that's why I'm pumped up about it, because I really, me and Ray have actually on the last couple deals have gotten, I think got like 5K extra on one, 10 on another, and 15 on another. Michael Chow in Canada actually got like a stupid amount, like 30K over list on one. I mean, he's probably got an extra 50K just off his last 3 deals by doing that. None of them were doing that before. And it's not that I'm doing anything special. It's just the people that were working for him just wouldn't fight. Ray's person, like I even told her what to do, got on the phone and told her what to do. And she was like, and then she did it and it worked and she got 10 extra K. And then on the next house, she's like, I don't feel comfortable doing that. And it's not even like she thought it didn't work. It worked. She just didn't like doing it. Now, people don't like confrontation. And there's a lot of predators that count on the fact that you won't want any confrontation. Like this guy was trying to be confrontational with me and bully me into taking an offer on a property. So I just said, hey, great, man. I'm just going to, I won't even present your offer then. And then he got all soft because he realized he kind of went too hard. I was like, oh, thanks, man. No problem. He's like, I need an answer by today at 12. He gave me an offer 8 o'clock last night and says I need an answer by 12 tomorrow. And I was like, hey, cool, man. I won't even open it then. Thanks for the heads up. And then I just left it at that. And he's like, why aren't you opening it? Well, I can't get you an answer by 12. That's too strict of a timeline. I don't even want to look at it. I don't want to play any games. And he's like, and then he just didn't talk to me for like 3 hours. And then he hit me up and said, my client said they'll wait till Friday at 7. I'm like, Friday at 7 is more reasonable. I can deal with that. Right. I mean, I had stuff to do today. You know what I mean? I don't want my life ran by some pesky realtor who's demanding that I give him an answer by 12. I didn't want to my morning had stuff important in it. I didn't want to start rescheduling my day because he demanded that I'm just like, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to let some random agent run my life. And that's what your agent should be doing. It's what all agents should be doing. They should, making sure they stand for their clients in a big way so they can get that extra money for them. Because you guys need it, right? You don't know it, but you need it. You might make a 30K check, but if you had the opportunity to make a 40K check, that's a big difference maker. You got to make that happen. So who else has some questions? So Tremont looks good, man. It definitely looks like you're right on those comps, like probably 145 to 150. You might even get a little more.
All right. Thank you.
Hey, Mike.
Anyone else?
Can you hear me, Mike?
Hey, Samira.
The volume.
You can't hear nothing either? Oh, no one can hear. Oh.
No.
Maybe I am. Can you guys hear me now?
Can you hear us?
Oh, dude, what happened? I must have messed something up.
Mm-hmm. Hello, walla, walla. Can you hear? Hello, hello. Woo-hoo, woo-hoo.
I can hear you guys now. Can you hear me?
Can you hear? You can hear me, Mike?
Yes, I can. Did you guys hear anything I said?
We could hear
Yes.
you. You just couldn't hear us.
Oh, cool.
Right.
Cool. All right. Because I was wondering. I was like, I was just talking to a wall. All right, cool.
Yes. I did have a question. You were talking in reference to realtors leaving things on the table. What type of things are they leaving on the table, by the way?
So I'll walk you through our higher level process that we use in the higher level group that we spend a lot of time working on. And it basically is like it's a negotiation, right? They're leaving on the table the negotiation piece.
Okay.
I want you to think about this. Agents will tell you, here's how an agent usually will pitch you. They'll tell you about, I got this great marketing system and I do all these awesome marketing things. And because I do all this, I'm a super marketer and I'm gonna get you more money because I'm such a great marketer. Meanwhile, they put it on the MLS. They wait for people to call, and then when they do, because the market's so amazing, they tell you how all their marketing worked. If any agent's doing any marketing, they're an idiot. Because honestly, I put my house on the MLS to get multiple offers on every single house. I got too many people looking at my houses. The last thing I would need is to spend $1,500 marketing it. That's just some bull crap they tell you to try to make themselves stand out against another agent, right? They all got to have their reason you want to work with Scott, right? You got to work with me because I got the 3x times 5x, marketing system that'll get more clients in. That's not an issue these days. Houses that are done well and designed right and priced right sell themselves. And when I say they sell themselves, it means they market themselves. That's actually a better word. They market themselves. Now, where the agent's job actually is vitally important is when, all the offers start to come in, how they handle it, right? Are they poised in the situation? Do they get, are they easily knocked off by another agent who's pretty savvy as a negotiator? There's going to be other agents that actually know how to negotiate. I'm not the only guy out there, right, that knows how to negotiate. Plenty of agents know how to negotiate. Most don't. I mean, most are pretty wild and just awful, but there's some that are actually pretty good negotiators. This guy who's being pesky and putting the timelines on and calling me and trying to get me on the phone, he's actually a pretty good negotiator because that's all the same stuff I would do if I was working with this client and I was trying to get the offer through, because I know time is against me, right? So what an agent generally doesn't do well, and I told this to Bill Allen, actually, in my old group I was in. And, Bill, so I'm actually talking to someone who actually knows him. And Bill's told me that, and I call this standing in the fire, and virtually no agent standing in the fire. And standing in the fire is when you got people telling you, like, I'm going to punch you in your face, I need an answer, I'm calling the realtor commission, all that. Like, the bottom line is I only look at one thing, what's best for my client, and that's usually me, by the way. So I guess it's a little self-serving, but if it was you or anyone else, I'd do the same thing. I only have one mode, right? I don't have, like, do it chintzy for Samir and then do it good for myself. I just have one way of being. It's the way I've taught myself to be. I don't jump to anything. I don't make quick decisions, period. I don't allow anybody to control me and put me in a bad spot. I always make sure I'm getting the most money out of the deal. However, that requires me to stand in the fire, right? Standing in the fire means that I might lose this first offer from this guy. Like yesterday, when I texted him back and said, hey, you know what? I won't even open it then. Thanks for the heads up. I was taking a chance that would have just blown up and I'd have lost that offer. But I was willing to do that based on my showings. I had enough data to decide that was the best tactic to move forward. Because what I couldn't do was come in, like, let him pull me into that ridiculous timeline, because that ridiculous timeline would have caused me not to see new offers, not to really get a full picture and be able to make an educated decision for my business. What most agents will do is they're going to push you to, like, they're going to say, Samir, that's a great offer. You know what? You really should just jump on this one. I'm telling you, Samir, you don't take this one. What if you get a lot less and no one will pay this much? They're going to start, dropping fear on you. And they've done it to me. It's how I know, by the way, Samir. My agent used to do this to me for years, and he wasn't doing it to be manipulative or anything. It just was his belief. He had a fear of losing. And now I actually don't have a fear of losing, because I'm like, you know what? My fear of losing is if I take this offer too soon and I miss out on other better offers. So as long as I know I got plenty of activity in the house, I know I priced it right, and I have confidence in what I've done, I have zero ability for me to ever, like, overreact. Because when I've overreacted in the past, what's happened is they've told me how great it was, and then they're like, hey, I sold this in 22 hours. Like, you sell any house in 22 hours, you undersold it. That's a fact. That is an absolute fact. So when you're up there on your Facebook and you're like, I sold this house for full price in 22 hours, I'd rather be like, I sold this house in 5 days and got 15K over list.
Right.
That's much better. So for a renovator, that's very meaningful. But see, most agents, they're selling retail. So what they're leaving on the table, it's not even that they're doing it purposely. They just are doing what works for, like, a retail person. See, a retail person, they can't do that with a retail person, because, see, a retail person couldn't handle if, say, that first offer did go away and then they felt like things didn't go as well as they should. They would probably go ahead and put a complaint against a realtor, and he loses his license, or he start having problems. So when you're working with a retail person, I would tell them to take the first offer, because I'd have no choice. But when I'm working with an investor, I'm going to just basically say, like, I'm just depending if I'm working with one of you guys. I would be like, hey, listen, you got this. But however, we got 13 showings and other people saying they're going to write offers. So I think, you know what, we take a little risk, like fighting hard with this first offer, but I'm really good at keeping those people in the game. But is there a chance they're going to say, get mad and jump out? Absolutely. But we got to be okay with that, because we know that the money that comes 3 to 5 days in is usually going to be the better money. Or if we can create a very competitive environment where everybody fights against each other, like most agents won't even create a multiple offer situation. I've even had an agent one time tell me that I ended up firing, by the way, is like, we should really take this offer, because if we don't, we're probably going to end up like in a multiple offer situation. I really don't want to be in that. I don't want to deal with that, they said.
Time to go.
Yeah. So that should be like as we're interviewing realtors, whatever, that should be a question, like, how do you deal with multiple offers, and kind of see where they stand on that.
Yeah, none of them are going to be trained, because I mean, realistically, unless they're an investor and they're like, it's like, if I list a property for you, I have a very unique thing that I can do for you, because I'm like, there's almost no agent out there that can do that. But if what I recommend to all students is you eventually get your own license and let me teach you how to do it yourself, because that's the best way to do it, because then there's no one's ever going to fight harder than you. And like, Ray got Hannah her license and he's already crushing it with her, and they're going through multiple offer situations. They're pulling the most money out, but not only are they pulling the most money out, but they're also, so they're gaining like 5 to 10K on every deal, but she's also collecting, these are like 250K houses. She's also collecting half of like $7,500 in commission he would have paid. So they're legitimately making $10,000 to $12,000 more a house just because she's doing that one simple thing. And it's not complicated. The negotiation piece is a few phone calls. It's a few well-placed phone calls, some good scripts I can show you. It's all the things that, it's like, it is a complete game theory thing, right? You have to be able to like think like multiple levels in. And I'm going to tell you that most agents are not thinking multiple levels in. I've spent all my time becoming a great negotiator and thinking multiple levels in, because that's what makes my business good. For a realtor, they spend all their time generating new business. So that's what they teach. Go online and be like, how to negotiate. You're not going to find anything. You go online, how to cold call and generate business as an agent, 700 things will come up. Because like, that's the main pain of an agent, is finding new clients, not actually representing those clients, because most of their clients aren't repeat clients. So if they get them full price, they're happy. They don't have to worry about it. They don't even, it's not even in their favor to do that. So it's really difficult to find an agent who's willing to negotiate. So I know people are always like, Mike, at your level, you want to be your own agent. I'm like, yeah, well, I've been looking for years and I haven't found someone who is going to not leave a little money on the table. And if they leave, I'm doing 40 houses a year that are renovations, like 30 wholesales. If they leave 40 times, just even $3,000 to $4,000 a house, add that up and tell me how much money that is every year. It's way too much, right? I can't. And would you ever believe in your life that a random agent versus me, who spent probably $300,000 learning to negotiate and has a good personality makeup for it, they're ever going to be able to, like, there's no scenario where I can't outperform them. And that's why I do this. What I do is I have my mom do 90% of what I hate about it. She sets it all up for me. I get on a call with them. The call is usually 5 minutes long, and I call another person for 5 minutes, and then we make a decision. I get everyone down. Then I highest and best them a second time. And then I get on the phone after I highest and best them 2 times, because I know they'll get pissed if I do it a third time. I call up and I'm saying, look, hey, Scott, thanks for your highest and best. I appreciate that, man. You're really close, buddy. I really want to work with you. I like a lot of things about your offer. I like the way you do business. We're pretty close, man. Is there anything left in the tank, man? You feel like you go back to your client and just see if they can dig a little bit deeper? I want to try to get this done for you. And every single time I do that, every time, my mom doubted me the first 50 times I did it. She's like, oh my God, we've already highest invested them 3 times. Every time I get an average of $1,000 to $3,000 just in that one call. And that's usually my 3rd or 4th highest and best. So go and ask your client, your agent, if he's willing to do 4 or 5 highest and best. The answer should be like, well, that's not how we do it. That's unprofessional. No, why would we ever do 5 highest and best? Because that's what you do. People, like, money starts coming from all kind of places. I had somebody, most of the time when I do the 4th or 5th highest and best, the agent's like, you know what? I couldn't get any more, but I took $1,000 off my commission. And I'm like, $1,000, cha-ching. Right? I'm just getting the money. I'm raking it up, right? Because it's all money, right? And this is like, every time I make one of these 5-minute phone calls and I get like $3,000, add that up as my hourly rate, what my hourly rate is. So when people are like, Mike, are you really your own agent? I'm like, yeah, because I get paid like $30,000 an hour to be my own agent. So you tell me what activity you do, you make $30,000 an hour. I mean, it's legitimate money. I've been tracking it. I'm literally averaging like 15 or 20K an hour as an agent. So yeah, because my mom does all the work, honestly. She does all the sucky stuff and I just get to do stuff I consider fun, which is negotiating and having that call. Because I can go back and forth with people. So yes, I recommend it. People become their own agent eventually. You don't have to do it. It's not important. You don't have to do it like day one, but long term, it's something that brings a lot of value to your business once you start doing some renovations. And you're not going to find an agent that's going to really represent you 100% because they're all going to have limiting beliefs. And by the time you were able to train them 3 to 4 years later, you've lost hundreds of thousands and you're probably out of business anyhow. So like, I'm not saying you couldn't get them to be great agents. It took me 5 years to learn what I know, right? 5 years I've been doing this as an agent, and I was studying 5 years before that. So it's not like, it's 10 years of like 1,100 transactions plus like almost 1,200 now. And in 10 years and about $500,000 in education is what it takes to be a level of agent I'm going to be. Now, with that being said, I've trained students like you guys, when you got your license, I've had students crushing it in like 3 weeks because they've never knew the other wrong way. So it's so much easier for me to teach. Like it's harder to teach Scott. Scott's a good student, so I could probably teach him, but he is an agent. So he would have some limiting beliefs that came with being an agent, but he kind of isn't on the investment side. So it'd be easier since he's not like a retail agent. Like people that are really seeped into retail have a struggle of looking at it our way. So, but if someone comes in, they're like, let me just give you an example. What is the big one? Like Craig Northrope or whatever, right? And I'm trying to teach him this stuff. Every big agent who crushes it as a retail agent, when I tell them this stuff, they're like, that shit don't make no sense. You can't do that. That's not, nobody's going for that. Like what do you mean? Like right now, the software I already got this guy said he'll settle in 3 weeks and he's already taken all the home inspections off and he's going to completely give me a $2,000 deposit and no home inspection.
Yeah.
Like non-contingent. Like everyone's like, oh, you can't get them to not ask for a home inspection. Sure I can. Right. When I had enough heart to stand in the fire and tell him that like and completely blow him off, what did it make him do? I qualified him and then he came to me. So we don't do any more of that chasing people. We push them away and make them come to us. It's a lot of high level psychology in this. So what they leave on the table is they're not willing to stand in the fire. Bill Allen told me in a 2-month period, he made $118,000. He's like, Mike, every time I wanted to accept an offer, I remember what you told us when we were in Costa Rica. And I went back to my people and said, Mike Green said, you can get more. And he's like, I every time they got more, I wrote it down. And when in 3 months since we seen each other last, I've made $118,000 doing that. Because there's always more. And the agent's going to think you're crazy when you're like, go back and get more. And that's been what they thought with me. And the thing about it, Samara, is you could fight the battle. But what I found is that eventually the agent would wear me down because I didn't want to keep fighting the battle all the time. And they would get me more than they normally would get, but they wouldn't get what I would get. So then we'd find this middle ground. It would kind of like make me happy. It would make them happy, but I'm still leaving like $3-4 grand on the table. And I just don't want to leave $3-4 grand on the table. And that's just one piece of it. The second piece of it is like, they're never going to be objective in picking buyers because they just want to pick a buyer. Like you want to pick the person that's going to get the settlement because if you pick the wrong buyer, it's going to cost you a lot of money. It's going back on the market. It's going to stigmatize your property a little bit. You're going to have like 2 to 3 weeks of running around, acting stupid, and you're losing opportunity costs, holding costs, all that. So I like to personally make sure my buyer is legit and can get the settlement. Where my agent, unfortunately, when I would work with my agent, I could never, ever really, it just felt like he looked at it through like beer goggles or something. He's just like, oh my God, these people are so amazing. And then like a week later, they're flipping out and jumping out the deal. And I'm like, so you told me they were amazing. And when I started doing it myself, I realized he wasn't accurately, he just was a nice guy, first of all. So he just seen people more beer goggled anyhow, just in general, because he was about the nicest guy I ever met. But honestly, you don't really want to work with the nicest guy you ever met. You want to work with someone who's going to be that perfect balance of being nice when it's necessary and a jerk when it's necessary on the opposite side. Like I can be a complete asshole if I have to be, but I'm never only when it's the right thing to do. I have complete control over my behavior to whatever way it's most optimal for the deal. Like when my mom's like, you were getting angry. I'm like, Mom, I don't get angry. Like, she's like, well, why were you seemed like elevated? Like, you seemed like you were angry. I'm like, yeah, because that's what was needed. I don't get angry in negotiations, period. So it's 100%. There's no such thing as Mike Green getting angry in a negotiation. You might hear me sound like I'm angry, but the second that it's done its job of like pulling that rubber band and stretching them out, right? And getting them like, because no one likes confrontation. As soon as it gets them to where they're more pliable and more open to building rapport with me, then I release it and I just stop instantly. It turned off like that. And I'm like, I'll say something along the lines like, Scott, we got a little bit heated there, man. First of all, I just want to apologize, man. I got a little emotional. Sorry about that, buddy. Let's just figure out how we can find a common ground. Right. And then because Scott doesn't want to argue anymore, what does Scott do? Scott now is coming from a place of like, oh yeah, let me do the same because I don't want that was no fun. I'm like totally not even invested in it, by the way. I'm just like, just doing it. And I learned it from my lawyer. He did it like a master. He would go in and he would pound people out for 15, 20 minutes, say they're idiots, call them like bad names. And as soon as they get up, like, we're walking out of here, he'd be like, all right, I'm sorry, this got a little out of hand. Let's just stop and just take a break and debrief for like 2 minutes. And let's take 1 minute of break. And then we go out in the hall and he'd be like, yeah, that was all strategic, buddy. We're good, man. We got him right where we want him. And I'm like, and he taught me, it was like probably the best lesson I got for $100K in legal fees that I gave him over the years. He was a genius at it. He's in there acting like a complete goofball. And I'm like embarrassed by being around him. And then he goes in, and now these people who are like, I'm not going to negotiate. No way. You're going to give me everything I want. We go in, they're like, all right, let's just be reasonable. Now they're being reasonable because he stretched them out. Nobody likes the rubber band being stretched out. So when you ask, like, what is an agent leaving on the table? Like everything. What they're leaving on the table. It's crazy how much they leave on the table. Now, I'm not going to tell you all agents, but in general, the only way I work with an agent that's not me is if they bring me a deal. Like, and I promised I'd give it to them. I rarely ever even do that. Most of the time, I mean, if they're not that great of an agent, I'd rather just give them a couple grand right there and then just list it myself because it's going to be way more beneficial for me to list it. I've actually did that on my last 3 transactions where they're like, I can get you the deal, but I need a back end listing. I was like, hey, do you mind if I just give you the commission because I have an in-house realtor and I just don't want to start any rifts in my company by giving it to another realtor? But you know what, if you're just looking to make the back end commission, what if I give you like half the commission, like at settlement? I'll just pay you half the commission on the side. And they'd be like, okay, that sounds good to me. Like, yeah, you don't even have to do any work. Because I knew that giving them half the commission, I still going to end up like making out like a bandit. Mm-hmm. I'm going to make all that money back, right? I mean, because I know I'm going to get a better result than them. And this was pretty good agents, by the way. People that we like, Michael Schiff was one of them who wanted to do it. He's actually considered to be like one of the top retail agents. I know him personally, and I know his negotiation. He negotiates his clients, they all spend their time negotiating their clients and not negotiating the other side. Like they're freaking gangsters at negotiating you or me, but they don't want to negotiate the people they're supposed to negotiate because it's easy to negotiate, and we practice, me and him and Tom were all in a class at Bold, if anyone's in KW, where we learned how to negotiate sellers down on list price. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, everything they're teaching is about not negotiating the other side, but negotiating their client, the person they're working for. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, when I learned all that, I definitely will say I took a turn in my belief system around hiring agents. And I'm very practical about it. If an agent ever outperformed me, I would give the job away in 2 seconds. But right now, I'm looking at not only do I pay them a commission, which is, first of all, it's hard for them to outperform me because ultimately I save the commission. If I was only 75% as good as Scott, right? Say Scott could get a 25% better result, I still be way better off because of all the commission I'm saving.
Right, for sure.
That's it. And so but when you think of the fact that I'm probably going to be like 25% better than your average realtor, and I'm saving the commission, it's like a home run. So that long term, that's what you want to do. And so if you just pick an agent, just don't pick. What is the reason? Think about, everyone give me an answer to this. What is the normal reason you pick an agent to work with? How do you pick your normal agent? And like, what would be your normal way? Or what would even draw you to an agent?
For me, it would,
Yeah, Justin.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I don't know who was going at. I think it's Mary.
I was going to say, for me, it's being transparent and communicating.
Yep. Well, they're all good communicators, just so you know, most of the time, because they're agents. They got to go out and sell. They're on the phone all day. They're communicating. The agent that can't communicate is just a complete idiot. You got to stay away from them. That's the bad news bears agents, the ones that can't get on the phone and win you over. Because they can't really, if they can't get out and sit in front of you and win you over, how do they even get listings? Right. That's like your aunt, right? Who's got a license that does one deal a year that can't win you over. So communication is not a very good standard because they all are really good at communicating. And by the way, that's the same communication that they use to bullshit you out of, like, and make you feel like they did a good deal for you when they really didn't. Justin, give me what you think.
I mean, well, usually the agents that I've dealt with have been the ones who are listing, because usually I found the deal and I just deal with those because they were the one who were listing it, and I was trying to get
100%. Yeah, I mean, that's a legitimate reason, by the way, and it is definitely one of the only ways I work with an agent, because they bring me the deal and I know they can bring me more deals in the future. Then, I like building that relationship. I end up doing their job for them the best I can, because that's the thing. You never, when me and Scott talk directly, I can tell. I can get a lot of info from Scott. But when I talk, me and Scott, or me and Samir talk about Scott, then like Samir could be filtering Scott the way he is, right? And I'm not getting a true representation of Scott. So that's the problem. There's a middleman. Like, that's the reason they never take like eyewitness, right? You ever seen the eyewitness exercise when they go through like multiple people and they all have different stories? They all seem the same thing, but they have like different stories about it. So most people will pick the agent because they sold them the deals. Number one reason. Number two would be because they know them somehow, either met them at a meetup, family member, something like that. Pretty much all the wrong reasons. And I don't really know where to even start, but I can tell you that getting an agent to work for you is going to be an uphill battle, because when you get them to work for you, you're going to have to train them, right? And they're going to be completely open to doing everything that I tell you to do. And if they are, then in like a year, you can get them into shape. But like, it's a year later. If you plan on getting your license in the next 3 to 6 months, then, just figure out a placeholder. That's why for my higher level students, I'm like, get your license. I'll do some of your listings for you as a placeholder. I don't want to do them forever. I just do it as to help you out because for me, it don't matter. Like, a little bit of money I make on a listing, often, I really mostly give it all to my mom, just so you guys know. I don't really, just part of how she makes money, and then I do all the work. But I mean, I do all the negotiation. She does all the work, all the stuff that like she's great at. She's actually really good at all the other stuff. And I suck at all the other stuff. I'm honest about that. Like paperwork.
Nobody likes the paperwork, Mike.
Oh God. I know there's probably she does. She says she does, but I don't. She was kind of an admin person her whole career. So she really kind of like is totally down with all that. She's pretty good at it and she enjoys doing it. She doesn't like confrontation is what she doesn't like. When people start getting really mean to her. Yes. And when people get mean with her and they start being rude or pushy, she's just like, oh, okay, let me three-way Mike in and maybe he can give you an answer. And then I get on and I just like fix it instantly, because I'm just like, all right, dude, we're stopping that and we're moving over here. And I just take complete control. Because and then when people are being nice and all that, then she does her job and she just brings me in when I need it. So I mean, ultimately, long term, like when you really start doing a lot of deals, you'd want to become your own agent. But that doesn't mean you need to do it now, right? Just long term, you'd want to become your own agent.
Hey, one suggestion I would give Jason for whatever agent he's working with is if they're not really good at negotiating. Kind of a quick fix for being sure you get all the offers you need is just tell the agent you want to do an open house on Sunday. List it on a Tuesday. Tell the agent you want to do an open house on Sunday. That's when you'll see all the offers.
Well, you know how hard that is to do, though? That's extremely hard to do. I mean, I don't even do that, because what I found is when you put that out there, people get pissed off and they start pushing still. And it makes them more pissed off because they're trying to push through it.
It gives that agent an out if they're not like you and I where we're willing to stand in the fire.
Yeah.
Just tell them you're not gonna accept any offers until the open house is over.
Probably like your best idea, I guess, if you have someone that you would have to do that with.
Yeah.
Be like, hey, but the problem is, I already can tell you, I've done it
for the next one.
So what I'm going to tell you is going to happen is the agent's going to come to you and be like, I know you're waiting until Tuesday, but I got this amazing offer, and they're going to rescind. They're not waiting till Sunday or whatever.
Right.
They're going to create fear. They're going to take the situation, instead of giving it to you straight and saying, here's the exact situation we're in objectively, they're going to give it to you with a bunch of freaking emotional filters on it that are going to make you make bad decisions, because you're only as good as the data you're getting. And if the agent's feeding you stuff in a way that's manipulating you into believing it's a more urgent situation than it is, because they don't want to take any risk of like potentially failing, then you're going to make bad choices. That's the way it is. So that's what I found out, that like when I look at things myself, I can objectively look at it. I can look at it 6 different angles and make a choice. I don't ever have to be pushed into anything. So that's my big thing on why I do it myself. So whatever.
Sure.
You guys
makes sense. Cool.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, man.
Hey, when you're interviewing lenders, what do you usually ask? What are the questions? What are some of the questions usually asked?
How much they charge as far as points, interest, length of the loan is important, obviously, because some people try to do 6 months. I really like 9 to 12 months at least. I don't do 6-month loans if I can help it, just because you're too often gonna. If you ever need more than 6 months, it's the worst time to have to pay a penalty, because it means you went over budget, over timeline. It's really kind of an awful time for them to compound your problem. So I really like to look for like 9 to 12-month loans. Is there any kind of application fee up front? I don't like to pay application fees up front, especially since there's a lot of scammers out there that take application fees and then just run off with them and technically don't ever approve anyone. So I kind of don't do application fees in the economy we're in right now because of, the influx of Nigerian hard money lenders that apparently are coming out there. I don't even know where they came from. They're just ripping people off. There's a lot of those, like on my page, everything. We have to keep an eye on them because they come out stupid, like 5% loans and stuff. They're scammers when they put stupid stuff, it's not real. And then just like, what is their LTV? Are they doing desktop appraisals is a big one for me. Like if they're a local lender, I really like working with lenders that can just look at the house and be like, oh, Justin, I know that neighborhood. Yeah, that's worth 200. Cool, man. I can make you a loan for X, Y, Z. Like most of the people I work with can just take a quick look. What I don't like is when they're like, oh, well, you have to pay for an appraisal and then we'll go off of what the appraiser says. Because the problem is they instruct the appraiser to be low so they can get you to put more skin in the game. And what they do, and they did this to not Samira, I got Sabina, Samira, and Sabrina. Okay, there's 3 of them. They're all so close. Sabrina, they did this to her, and what they did, and it was Lima 1, by the way, just so you guys know. I'll put them out there. Like, Lima 1, sorry if you're listening. But they kind of screwed her over. I'm not going to lie. They basically waited till like a week before settlement, got the appraisal, and it came back $18K lower. By the way, they came in with a 225 appraisal. We sold it for 255. Just so you know, like that's how off they were with the appraisal. So if they ever try to say, well, we don't do low appraisals, we're a nationwide company. Well, they were 30K off on the appraisal, and I think that's 100% unacceptable to be 30K off on an appraisal. And by the way, none of the appraisal made any sense. There was comps all day for this property. It was in PG County. There was like no problem with comps. They just lowball you, man. And then they put her in a corner. Now what I liked about her, she got so like serious about it. She was just like, I'm not letting them do that to me. So she actually literally just went back to the seller and they gave her like an extra week and she canceled the thing with them and found another lender to do it. And they lost the loan over it. And but they try to put her in a corner. Most of the time she wouldn't have had that option. I was actually doing the listing for her, so me and my mom were actually able to go back in and get her like extra time so we could get the deal pushed through. So that was actually one that we actually got for her and worked out for her. So we were able to get that extra time and work out the details. But they did put her in a very unique spot. So I don't like the whole appraisal thing, just because also then you got to pay for the appraisal, and what if it comes back bad? And you're paid $500 for an appraisal and they come back with some stupid appraisal, it's 30K low. Right, you feel a little bit like you feel obligated to do the deal because you spent money with them.
Right.
That's just their way of getting you to put more skin in the game. So I like that if they can do the appraisals themselves, like they call it desktop appraisal. Right now, the company that's nationwide that I really like is Lending Home, and they do desktop appraisals. I think they might. I don't. Depends on like if it's a new person or not. They've been working with me trying to like get in with my group. They're already doing all the higher level groups loans and they're giving them some great rates. They just offered me 8-1. So like, that's a seriously good rate. And they do desktop appraisals. They've been great to work with. With that being said, they're a little more if you're new. So, I mean, really your job is just to get on the phone. If you qualify them, right? Hey, figure out like who you really want to work with. Like Jason works with, I think like Brooke Kane, or you want to work with someone who's more relationship based. Someone who, like, once you've done a deal with them, you've proven yourself and they like you, that they'll open up the gates a little bit and make some loans to you. You want some people that are a little more relationship based versus like when I work with Dominion or Lima 1, they're pretty much like, here's the best we can do. And there's not a lot of wiggle room on it, where, with Brookham and them, they're willing to do like, they will do more loans if they kind of like you and trust you. I've seen them be pretty, to give you pretty good amount of money on the loans.
Hey, Mike, my phone froze. What was the company you referenced just a moment ago?
Brooke Kane.
Before then.
Lending Home.
Oh, yeah. I'm with Lending Home now.
Yeah,
so
Lending Home.
Yeah, I'm just starting. So I I'm not sure. I guess I'm gonna reach out to them and ask them for guidance on how to, with the draws and all that stuff. Like,
Yeah, they make it pretty easy. I mean,
really?
how are they to work with? I mean, so far, just to get.
Well, let me just tell you, Shady Mike at the closing table, I met him, by the way, wanted to punch him in his throat. But he was talking about lending home and how they're a pain in the butt to deal with and blah, blah, blah. So I was kind of taking that with a grain of salt, but that's why I was interested.
Well, because they're not going to let him. They're not going to let him rip you off. Essentially, well, Ray's using them. Ray's used them on a bunch of deals, and I used them on a couple deals. And they're like anything. When you use a nationwide company, they're going to have a little more red tape, but they're consistent. Is the thing about them. Yeah. Once you understand their model, it's going to be the same thing every single time, right? You just do you have to learn it? Sure. Yes. And they're going to have some processes and procedures to follow, but they're consistent and they're aggressive with their pricing. They're not going to gouge you. And I mean, honestly, what did you end up? What was your rate you got with them?
My rate that I got with them was 11. I think it was 11%.
How many points?
11 and 2, I think.
So just so you know, like I'm right now, most of my loans are with a lender. I'm paying 12 and 2, and another lender I'm paying 10 and 2. So you essentially just got right in the middle of what I get after doing 1,100 flips, or 800 flips. Like 1,100 deals. So 800 flips. So yeah, lending home, are they aggressive? Yeah, that's pretty aggressive for your first time rehab, and you just got the price that I pay. And so I mean, I'm just saying from a pricing standpoint, that is a really good price for your first deal. And the thing with them is the more deals you do, they're offering me 8 and 1 right now. So as you get more and more deals with them, their prices skyrocket down. They have a lot of room to go down, where most lenders will be like 11 and 2. And once you've done some deals, I'll get you down to 10 and 2. You end up doing 20, 30 deals from now. They could be your long-term relationship because they, it'll just get better and better with them. Like they literally can get all the way down to 8 and 1, and they're working on getting stuff that's even cheaper than that, which I'm like, I don't really know how you get any cheaper than 8 and 1. That's crazy. It's not even that different than the bank, honestly.
Since most of us are starting out, isn't the more important thing how much their LTV amount? Because we're all starting out. We have limited amount of money. So
100%. That's why most of the students, I push them to Brooke Kane. He's more expensive, but he'll let you be less out of pocket. But I don't. If that's so, money is definitely going to be something to consider. Lending home's going to want you to put 10 or 20% down.
I put 15 down.
So again, that's actually, so I would say that's really good for a nationwide lender. That's amazing. Like that is really, really good rates, everything. So they gave you a great deal, 15% down, the points. However, what Jason's saying is very important. If you went to Brooke Kane and he was like, hey, I'm going to charge you 12 and 3 or something, but I'll let you do 100% of the loan and, or have like less money down, that's going to be better because, money is very important when you're new. So personally, I guess Jason actually kind of already put out what I was going to say. The reason I work with the lender at 12 and 2 is he pretty much gives me 100%. Now he makes me put like 10K in a deal, which really isn't eating my cash up. When I work with them, I might have to put 20K in a deal, and I got 13 deals going. That extra 10K times 13 deals is $130,000. And that represents 2 or 3 rehabs I can't do. So you see, is it worth saving like $1,000 by going with lending home for me? No, it just isn't, because I'm paying an extra $1,000 with him. And by paying an extra $1,000 or $1,500 deal with him, I actually can do 3 more deals at a time. So I make out, right? $3,000 I'm losing, but I get an opportunity to make like 70K more in flip money. So yes, I personally, there's a, what you don't want to do is go with the people that are 13 and 3, and they want you to put 20% down, and you got a bunch of junk fees, which there's plenty of those people out there, and that's who I would stay away from.
Oh, okay, yeah, because I'm supposed to be meeting this guy, Michael Crump.
Yeah, I'd probably stay away from him, honestly. I mean, I've known a couple people work with him. He's definitely I'm not saying he's very, very opportunistic with the points and everything. He's going to try to jack up on you. So, I mean, I had a couple people. The guy I work with him did end up being a crackhead later on, but he, I thought he was a pretty decent dude for the years I knew him. And I think he probably just got in a bad way eventually. But he might have gotten a bad way because of Michael Crump, though. Because Michael Crump, every time I was like, what deal do you got? Like, Michael Crump had him in some wild deal where it was like, I'm getting 14 and 4 and I'm getting 10% profit. It was like some wild deal, man. He was like very opportunistic. He's definitely one of those dudes, and I know, like, is going to work the system a little.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it was higher for me, I think, with him because I did talk with him, but I never did follow through.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be one of the higher lenders. He is usually willing to work with some people. So, like, like your first deal, if you had to do a deal with him, I'm not saying don't, because he might be a guy, if you don't have a lot of cash, he might be someone who's willing to get you in without a lot of cash. You might
Yeah,
have to
and that's
start
and that's what he was saying.
Yeah, no, totally then, because that's like a lot of the people I know that worked with him have worked with him because they didn't have a lot of cash. And you can, whatever deal you can figure out when you don't have cash, you do it. That's the way I look at it. Like anything within reason, obviously, make sure you can pay it back. If they're willing not to make you put all your cash up, I'm always in for that. I think my first guy charged me 15 and 4. But yeah, he didn't make me put like any money down. I think I just paid closing. So I was like, cool.
Yeah, because he was talking 12 and 2 and putting in 100% construction and 90% finance. I mean,
okay, well, that's not bad then. I mean, that's pretty solid.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all. That's pretty solid. I mean, for a first time flip, that's that's great. Those terms are nothing wrong with those terms.
Okay. You scared me for a second.
I mean, I know he's opportunistic. So, I mean, the thing about people that are opportunistic, you just have to make sure you vet them and make sure everything they're doing is right. That's all. I'm not saying he's a criminal. I'm just saying he's opportunistic. I know some people he charged like 15 and 5 and, and stuff like that, and had some wild deals going on with them. But, I put him on the same side. I mean, I'm not saying he's a bad dude or anything like he's going to rip you off. He really can't rip you off as a lender, honestly. They're giving you their money, so there's only so much they can do.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and I'm glad that this whole Baltimore area is so small that I'm able to just to say his name and you're able to just bring him right up. Yeah, I mean, I like that.
I don't know anything. I've never heard like anything bad other than, if he's willing to work with you and that's your go-to dude, then do it. And then once you've done a deal and you get some track record, then within like a deal or two, if you still like it and everything's fine, the relationship's going good. I don't spend a lot of time shopping to get stuff a little cheaper. That's why, lending homes like call me and bugging me all the time. They're like, why won't you work with us? I'm like, because I've got a system in place. And just for me to go from going to my guy to you means I got to sit down and spend hours teaching my people everything they got to do with you versus what they're already doing. And like, that's a shift in my business that I don't really need to save like $900 here and there. It's not worth it to me, right? I'm all about automation to me. And then when we change things, it messes the automation up for a period. So I personally, I'm okay paying 12 and 2 to my one dude. And he's just, he's been easy to get along with too. So I don't know. I've done a couple hundred deals with him. So I kind of like family to me. Cool. So, all right. I'm going to eat. I smell food. So you guys lost me when that happened. It's all over, man. So everybody have a good day. I got some stuff getting cooked in the background. That's what I think Tanya came in to tell me. So
I do have something to talk about. I don't know if you want to talk about it afterwards or something about the mid-level program.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if it's something you want, other people to hear how you go to the next level, or if that's something you want to talk about later.
No. So, I don't mind really. Nothing's a secret. So you can certainly anything you say to me. So I know some people are in, like Samira's in it, a couple people are in it, but as you get out of this program, you get your first deal, there is another level program you can go in between going in like the really high level program. Cause we created it because not everybody's ready for that higher level program. You usually have to be doing a certain amount of deals to be in there. And what it does, it just allows you to stay in the mastermind and be able to come on these calls as much as you want. But it does give you some access to some of the infield trainings and different stuff that only the higher level people would get. So, it gives you some other bonus stuff and access to the other online stuff that you don't get access to now. There's higher level online program stuff too that you can do. So, Jason, I don't know. We did invite you to the last training, right?
The 3-day training thing.
Okay, I was just making sure you got invited because you can come to that. And Samira was gone, so she couldn't come.
Yeah, I just wasn't, sure what all extra there was involved,
So you can come to the 3-day trainings that are only for the higher level people who spend a lot of money with me. You can come to those, and they're pretty epic, by the way, because, I think anyone in the group would love being in them. We literally, people were finding deals. We were out doing real stuff. It wasn't just listening to me talk for a couple of days. It was us. We do a lot of, higher level doing stuff. Right. So it's interactive. It's very like an immersion essentially. So we're out looking at properties together. We were on the phone together, talking to people, negotiating together, we were actually making offers and trying to get deals to, and someone ended up getting a property or two in that couple of days. It was only like 8 or 10 of us, and we were, getting properties from it. So yeah, we do cool stuff like that. The next one, however, is a travel one. So the one that'll be the next one you can go to, Jason, will be the contractor one, and that'll be a 3-day contractor one in February. So we normally do two locally. And you guys that are in the middle level group are welcome to go to the local ones. And what we do is the same thing. They're like business breakdowns, essentially, where we just dive deep into finding deals is going to be one and contractors is going to be the other. These are two things that you can never, ever learn enough about, right? I mean, you're talking about like deal flow, finding deals, and managing contractors. Those two things are always going to be room for growth. Like I literally still go to seminars for both of these subjects today because I don't think you can ever stop learning on them because they just are really big subjects that have a lot of layers to them. So that's the 2-3 days we do. And then we do one travel event. And that's for the higher level group only though, the travel one, because I think we're going to Costa Rica or something. I'm not sure if it's Costa Rica or Mexico. That's what they're deciding on. It's not my choice. But I got like a couple people were like, I want to go surfing. So you also have access to, you have this access in the mastermind. Obviously, if you got a deal, you need me, feel free to text me. That's something that I make sure. But, so you're still getting all the mastermind privileges, plus you get a couple extras. And it's actually, for everyone that knows, it's actually cheaper than the mastermind. It's like, it's $700 a month or $695 a month. And it's just a cheaper way to stay interactive for people that have rehabs and they want to kind of stay connected and with the group and all that. You don't have to spend $1 million to stay in. But that's once you graduate this, obviously, because everyone in here, I let you stay in until you get a deal. Once your time's up, if you want to stay in and have me keep helping you, then that's a cheap way to do it until you get your business up and running and really popping. And then you get into the higher level stuff. The higher level people, that's $1,500 a month for anyone who might be in the future interested in that. But what they do is we actually have a weekly call there. They can come to any of these calls. And we also do some, a lot of like Marco Polos and chats and talking. There's a lot of bonus trainings they have, like the really high level stuff we're talking about, like running our businesses, how to get more deals, more contractors, optimization. It's all about that. Like Ray, everyone in that group's really been crushing it. It's not a big group because, I don't make that group very big. I keep it pretty small. It's like 12 people. I just don't, I end up working with them a lot. And then there's the even most expensive one is the one where people do like weekly calls with me one-on-one. And that's just a few people. So that group, that's a very small group because I don't have time for it. So, but really, I put the middle level group because I feel like there's like sometimes this training can go on for a really long time. There's so much that me and Jason and Samira can work on over the next year, 18 months, however long they want to stay in. We'll never run out of stuff to work on because I'm learning so much and there's just so much. Like I haven't even only gotten into like level 2 of like level 1 through 5 because like, you should only be learning the things you need when you need them. The one thing you don't want to do is take up your storage in your computer, which is your brain. You don't want to take that storage up when you don't need it. You want to put all your storage to what you need right now. And if you haven't found a deal, all your storage should be going towards finding a deal. And if you have found a deal, all of your storage should be going towards like getting it renovated on time and on budget and making sure you're pricing it correctly and selling it and making the most money. And once you start getting those two things and get a nice balance between them, then you can start talking about like doing more volume and really scaling up your income. So Jason, anything you need when you're in that group, man, just call me. Let me know if you need something, right? I mean, pretty much if you need something, don't ever feel like, there's no room to do that. Okay.
Gotcha.
Samira also, obviously, I think Samira knows. She calls me at least 3 times a day. She don't call me as much as that because I can only handle that like one time. Tell me.
No, I don't.
I'm just
no, I don't.
I know. She doesn't call me. So you're welcome, though. So she doesn't call me 3 times a day. But in the higher level group, like my one-on-one clients are often, we're talking 4 or 5 times a week. So I'm really almost running their business with them, kind of like their partner, essentially. So that's how they justify paying me the money, because often I'm finding them way more money in savings and profits every month over and above and beyond what they're paying me. And if I don't, then the relationship ends. It's that simple, because there comes a time when sometimes people know enough and they don't need me anymore. But I've got clients I've been working with for 6 years right now. And we just stopped working together like the last 6 months. So 5.5 years we worked together. The guy's making $1 million a year in net income. So, I mean, he's crushing it. And he only does like 20 some houses a year. I mean, he really has the most optimal business plan I've ever seen.
Nice.
Took a long time. I mean, I'm not out there bullshitting people and telling them you're going to build $1 million a year business in like 18 months. It's just probably not going to happen. I mean, unless you're like some kind of superstar. It just, this business takes time. There's a lot of learning. There's like, you have to get some experience under your belt. However, it's the only business I know that while you're learning and taking all that time, you get to make really cool money and, have freedom and quality of life. And so, I mean, I don't know of a better business you don't even have to be great at this business to make like 100, 200K a year. But when you start really nailing it, like there's a bunch of people in the higher level group that are going to do like 15 deals and make like 400 or 500K. Like that's kind of like the most perfect business model. Not like they came from a group, obviously, Samira, a group they came from, a lot of them. They came from a group where they were telling them to do 40 deals, 50 deals, 60 deals, but nobody in that group was making over like 500, 600K. One of the guys in the group, when we were comparing P&Ls, actually was doing 250 deals a year and only netting for himself personally like 600,000. And like, so I literally put my P&L next to him and I did 41 and I was netting more. And it literally was almost, I think I was the highest netting person in the group, but I had the lowest volume in the group, which is funny. No one was doing 41 deals. Everybody was doing like, I think 100 plus. And I did 41, but really what matters is the bottom line, the net. That's all we care about. So that's a really big thing that I teach in a higher level group, and I'll teach you in this group. I just want you to take every deal you do and make sure you're making plenty of money at it. So like, that's what we're talking about your deal, Samira. If you find you think it's going to be too thin and ain't going to make any sense, any of those things, you can always say no. If it's not going to cost you a deposit and you get an opportunity to get out because they won't settle, something to think about. But if you like it still and you're fully committed to it, then obviously I'm here to help and I'll push you through it and I'll make sure you get the best result.
Okay.
You got both options. I'm just giving you some little bit of options are always good, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Yes.
well, cool. I'm going to
Thank
eat
you.
now. But anything you guys need, let me know. And I'll see you on Tuesday. Have a great
All
weekend,
right.
everyone.
Thanks,
All right,
Mike.
take it.
See you guys.
Bye, guys.